Chapter 2465. However, in Lin Yi's eyes, the common house Yu's position had obviously dropped a lot. They weren't as mysterious as before, so the value of this map was naturally lowered by Lin Yi. This was also why Lin Yi kept them in the drawer to collect dust and didn't study them. But now that this map had appeared beside the skeleton of a Sky-class late-phase Peak Master, it proved that this map still had some value. A Sky-class late-phase Peak Master didn't bring anything else, but a map was enough to prove this point. No matter what, there was no reason for Lin Yi to let go of such a good thing. Although he didn't know what these two things could be used for, Lin Yi still decided to keep them. "What conditions do you have?" Lin Yi looked at the thing and asked. "Promise me first or not?" The thing said, "If you don't say anything, how can I promise?" Lin Yi frowned. "If you want me to die, would I still die? That won't be possible. The conditions that I've set out will guarantee that all of you will be able to leave safely. You won't have to pay anything, and it won't cause any substantial harm or loss to you." The ghostly thing said, "Moreover, it's just a piece of cake for you." Now that you put it like that, I'm a little confused. "What conditions are you talking about? Tell me." Lin Yi was very puzzled. Why was this thing stuttering? Why couldn't it just say the conditions? "This is very important. You have to promise me first before I can say it." The thing said firmly. "Okay." Lin Yi was a little helpless. "If it's really as you said, and your conditions are really nothing, and it won't cause any harm or loss to me and my friends, then I can promise you. But if it's not as you said, then the promise is invalid." Lin Yi was a person who took promises seriously, and he didn't easily promise things to others. And if he promised, he would find a way to do it. Since this darn thing wanted Lin Yi to guarantee first, Lin Yi naturally added such an additional condition. "Haha, how refreshing." The ghostly thing laughed and suddenly pounced on Lin Yi. "You." Lin Yi turned pale with fright. He was just about to condense his pill fire to fight against this ghostly thing, but he hadn't condensed his pill fire yet. Thus, a huge change occurred. What happened next caused Lin Yi to be indescribably horrified. After the ghostly thing rushed towards Lin Yi, it suddenly shrank into a straight line and entered Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's first thought was that he had been possessed. However, even though he was shocked, he didn't notice anything strange. He was still himself. Even his thoughts had not changed. It seemed that he had not been possessed. However, where did that damn thing go? If he didn't possess me, then why did he disappear after entering my body? Just as Lin Yi was in shock, suddenly the ghostly thing's voice was heard again. "Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough for your kindness. I will definitely repay you in the future." I didn't expect this. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, but then his expression changed, because the way this ghostly thing spoke was the same as the way he and Jiao Lao conversed. It was transmitted directly to the mind through thoughts, and this ghostly thing was doing the same now. Didn't that mean, did it run into my jade pendant? Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly turned pale with fright. He subconsciously entered the space of the jade pendant, but when he saw it, he was immediately dumbfounded. At this moment, that ghostly thing seemed to be enjoying itself, staying in the space of the jade pendant. Although it only occupied a small corner, in Lin Yi's eyes, it was so dazzling, stimulating Lin Yi's nerves. "This is my jade pendant. How did this thing come in? Since when can my jade pendant allow strangers to enter and leave freely? What the hell is going on? How did you come in? What do you want to do?" asked Lin Yi in shock. "Haha, this place is much better than that girl. I didn't expect this. I'm going to sleep here first. You don't have to care about me. Just pretend that I don't exist in the future." The ghostly thing said excitedly. "When I wake up, I will give you benefits. You want to live here for a long time?" The corner of Lin Yi's mouth twitched twice. Didn't you agree to my conditions? It's just a little effort from you, and it won't cause harm or influence to you and your friends." "I did what I said." The ghostly thing said. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. "Well, I'm going to sleep, goodbye." With that said, the ghostly thing didn't wait for Lin Yi to answer. It shrunk into a small ball and hid in the corner of the space of the jade pendant. "Hey, you wait first." Lenny didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're occupying my territory now. Why don't you explain how you came in? There was no sound. The ghostly thing really did what it said and went asleep directly. Lin Yi's words were equivalent to saying nothing. You. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't know what to say because it was useless. Sighing helplessly, Lin Yi turned to look at Zhao Yazi and said, Zhao Lao, what did it do? How did it come in? How would I know? It came in just like that. Zhao Yazi shook his head. This space is yours, not mine. I'm just an avatar of my primordial spirit. Primordial spirit? You're also a primordial spirit? Lin Yi was stunned and asked. It seems so, but I'm not too sure. I've already said that a lot of my memories haven't been unlocked. So, there are a lot of things that I can't explain. Zhao Yazi said, however, it's obvious that this thing can come in because you instructed it. As for how you instructed it, I'm not too sure, but it doesn't matter. It shouldn't have any malice towards you. Lenny nodded. If this ghostly thing had malice towards him, it wouldn't have waited until now. Moreover, it had always been easy to discuss with him. This made Lin Yi slightly relieved. Everything would have to wait until this ghostly thing woke up. Well, I don't know when it will wake up. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This space hasn't been condensed yet, but it already came in. It's really strange. It's in the form of a primordial spirit. It's different from ordinary things. In fact, it's also your primordial spirit that entered the space. Your body is actually still in the outside world. Zhao Yazi explained. So that's how it is. Lin Yi was a little surprised. I also have a primordial spirit. Isn't it only after reaching a certain level that one can cultivate a primordial spirit? Your mental cultivation method is special. Zhao Yazi said. The school bell's personal expert. Text. Welcome readers to log in. Read the full text. Chapter 2466. Chapter 2472. Secret Service, they were all shocked. Then, if I accidentally die, can my primordial spirit be preserved? Lenny asked. I don't know. You can try, but you won't be able to live if you die, Zhao Yazi said. Lin Yi was speechless. Huh? Where am I? Lin Yi heard Xinyan's surprised voice all of a sudden. Lin Yi hurriedly came out of the jade pendant space, but he saw a completely different scene. The barren village was still the same barren village. The skeleton on the ground was still there, and the small bag that Lin Yi emptied was still there. However, the scene behind him had completely changed. Not far away, Han Jingjing, Right Coiling Tiger, Xiaolong, Yellow Hair, and Purple Hair were all there, and they could faintly see the lights of the expedition car in the distance. This place had completely returned to normal, and it was no longer a hallucinatory state. Xinyan, on the other hand, was looking around with a confused expression on her face. She let out a breath of relief when she saw Lin Yi standing right beside her. Xinyan, are you all right? Lin Yi hurriedly asked. I'm fine. Xinyan shook her head, a little confused. Lin Yi, I remember getting off the car, but I don't remember anything after that. How did we end up so far away? Why are there skulls on the ground? Xinyan was a medical student. After all, she was a little scared by the skull, but not to the point where her legs went weak. It's okay. We encountered a ghost wall and couldn't get out. Now, everything is over. Lin Yi said, let's go. Let's go back. Wall-hitting ghosts. Xinyan's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't remember anything from before, and it seemed like nothing good had happened. But it's nothing. It's all in the past now. Lin Yi didn't want to explain too much to Xinyan, in case she overthought things. After all, Xinyan had lost her mind before, and she didn't feel much of the horror. All right, Xinyan nodded, not wanting to stay in this damn place. Han Jingjing and the others were also very surprised. Previously, they saw Lin Yi walking away and suddenly disappeared. Now they could see Lin Yi again. They were a little surprised. Lin Yi and Xinyan walked over. Xiaolong was still sitting on the ground, his face still ashen. Right Coiling Tiger, on the other hand, was looking at the sudden change in scenery with a bit of surprise and confusion. Where's that ghost? Yupanhu glanced at Lin. He was scared away by me. Lin Yi was unwilling to explain further. He could not tell Pan who about the jade pendant. In fact, until now, Lin Yi still hadn't recovered from the shock. The jade pendant had always been his biggest secret. Other than himself, only Jiao Yazi knew about it. How did this damn thing know? It was a little unbelievable. The scariest thing was that it could enter and live there. Lin Yi felt very helpless. Scared away? Yupanu blinked. You scared it away? Yeah, that thing was scared of the core fire. It ran away as soon as I started the core fire. You could have scared it away too, Lin Yi said. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Yupan, who was speechless. He wouldn't have been so scared if he'd known earlier. I didn't test it out earlier, Lin Yi said. All right, let's go back. Your purple-haired follower should be dead soon, right? He's fine. I gave him a small recovery pill. His wounds are all external, and he'll be fine after we control it. Yupan, who answered Lin Yi honestly. The situation before had scared him to death. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, they might not have been able to walk out alive. Plus, old man Yu told him that Lin Yi could hurt even sky-class masters. Yupan, who was very afraid of him. Xinyan, sis, are you okay? Han Jingjing looked at Xinyan up and down, a little surprised. Xinyan didn't look scared at all. It seemed that there was some kind of inside story behind this. I'm fine. Xinyan smiled. She was indeed the least frightened of the group, and hadn't seen the thing from the very beginning. She only woke up when the thing entered Lin Yi's jade. Oh, that's good then. Han Jingjing nodded. Xiaolong got up from the ground and looked at Lin Yi and Xinyan in silence. He blushed a little awkwardly. It was his idea to get out of the car and explore this place, but he was the first one to be scared out of his wits. It was Lin Yi, the one he'd been mocking all this time, who was the first one to rush in when Xinyan was in trouble. It was obvious who was the stronger one here, and Xiaolong was embarrassed. He didn't dare act cool in front of Lin Yi anymore. The group walked in the direction of the adventure car in silence. Suddenly, a skull flew towards Xiaolong from the sky. Xiaolong had just been scared out of his wits, and even though Lin Yi said that he scared the ghost away, Xiaolong still hadn't recovered from his shock. Suddenly, a skull came flying at him, scaring him out of his wits. Ah! Xinyan had been walking beside Lin Yi with her head down when she heard Xiaolong scream. She jumped in fright and looked up to see the skull flying towards them. She subconsciously jumped into Lin Yi's arms. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wasn't scared. He wasn't scared of that thing that was beyond sky class, so why would he be scared of Flying Skull? But with a beauty in his arms, Lin Yi was naturally happy to let nature take its course. He hugged Xinyan and said, "Don't be scared, it'll be fine." Meow. The cat's cry broke everyone's fear. When the skull came closer, Xiaolong saw that it wasn't a freaking flying skull at all. It was clearly a cat that had somehow managed to push the skull of a skeleton onto its head from who knows where. However, this cat's color was black, so it wasn't particularly clear in the dark. It couldn't be seen from a distance. If one didn't look carefully, they would really think that it was a flying skull. Fuck, you scared me to death. Xiaolong panted and rubbed his chest. Yupanu didn't know what to say. He wouldn't have been scared if it weren't for Xiaolong's reaction. Xinyan, on the other hand, was blushing as she tried to escape from Lin Yi's embrace. But Lin Yi was holding her so tightly that she couldn't break free. Lin Yi, haha, I'm sorry, I was scared too. I couldn't help but hug you tight. Lin Yi let go of Xinyan awkwardly and laughed. Yes, please. Chapter 2467. Xiaolong's face darkened. He didn't want to mess with Lin Yi right now, but Lin Yi hugging Xinyan right in front of him wasn't something he could accept. But it was his own fault for mistaking the black cat for a skull, scaring everyone. That was why Xinyan jumped into Lin Yi's arms, and why Lin Yi could take advantage of the situation. He couldn't blame anyone else for that. But Xiaolong still said sourly, "Lin Yi, you don't look that brave. A skull scared you." "Oh, the skull didn't scare me. It was your scream that scared me," Lin Yi said faintly. "Don't you know there's a saying that scaring people can scare people to death?" With that, Lin Yi picked up the black cat from the ground. He didn't know when this skull was put on the cat's head, but the upper half of the skull was almost dead on the cat's head. It was obvious that this cat had been wearing this skull since it was young. In that case, the unclean thing that the tourists saw here was most likely this black cat. After all, this ghost that surpassed sky class didn't have the time to scare the tourists. It couldn't even train itself. It would only come out to scare people away if they accidentally entered its territory. The other routes, in theory, didn't see ghosts, so it was most likely this black cat. Xiaolong didn't think that his sarcasm towards Lin Yi would result in him getting outsmarted by Lin Yi. He wasn't happy, but there was nothing he could do. They walked back to the car, only to find that the door was closed. Lin Yi went up and knocked on the door. "Who is it? Who is it?" The driver was very scared in the car, and he didn't dare look far. He clearly saw that Lin Yi and the others didn't go far, but they disappeared in an instant. It wasn't hard to imagine how scared he was. The car was out of gas and couldn't move forward. He could only lie in the car and wait for the sun to rise. He didn't dare look around, in case he saw something unclean. He didn't care if Lin Yi and the others lived or died. If they died, then so be it. He could just say that Lin Yi and the others didn't listen and got off the car without permission. The resort wouldn't take too much responsibility. The driver was about to fall asleep when he heard a knock on the car door. His scalp went numb, and his heart raced. Was it a ghost? Lin Yi was pissed off at the driver's words. This guy was obviously sent by that idiot Sue to mess with them. If it wasn't for the fact that he was an elixir refiner and made an agreement with that damn thing, they would have all died here today. Xiaolong didn't know that this place was dangerous. It was understandable for him to encourage everyone to get off the car. After all, he thought that the barren village was just a tourist attraction. If he knew how scary it was, he probably wouldn't have come down himself. This driver, on the other hand, had no regard for human life. Xinyan had almost died, so there was no way Lin Yi would let this driver go so easily. At that thought, Lin Yi picked up the black cat in his hand and stuck it on the window of the driver's seat. The driver was terrified, but he could only suppress his fear and raise his head to see what was going on. But when he raised his head, the driver's eyes widened, and his mouth dropped wide open. He saw a skull outside the driver's window. Moreover, within the skull, there was a pair of glowing green eyes staring at him. Oh my God! Hashtag, 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 hashtag percent. Ghost! The driver screamed in terror and lay on the steering wheel, not moving an inch. Lin Yi put the cat down casually, and under the shocked gazes of the others, he pushed the door open and got into the car. Lin Yi, why are you scaring him? Who's going to drive if you scare him to death? Xiaolong frowned, not understanding Lin Yi's actions. There's no gas in this car. He won't be able to drive, even if he's alive, Lin Yi said faintly. No gas. Xiaolong blinked. Isn't it broken? He told Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger about what happened and harumphed. Isn't this all your fault? Xiaolong was a little embarrassed, but he still defended himself. If I didn't stand up for him, you would have stood up for him when he was harassing Xinyan. How can you blame this on me? If I stood up for him, that idiot Sue would have turned into an idiot. I wouldn't have given him a chance. Lin Yi glanced at Right Coiling Tiger faintly. I'm sure Coiling Tiger knows this very well. There's a blue-haired guy in his house, and I blew his brain up with pure energy. You Coiling Tiger shivered involuntarily, forcing a smile. All right, Lin Yi, what's done is done. Kong Bro was just being nice. He's not as strong as you, so it's good enough that he could do this. Xiaolong, on the other hand, felt a little awkward. He turned around to check if the car was really out of gas. When he saw the driver, he realized that the driver had no heartbeat. Lin Yi, he's scared to death. Oh, so what if he's dead? Lin Yi said nonchalantly. Lin Yi didn't need to hide anything in front of Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger. There were too many people related to House Kong and House Yu that had been crippled or killed by Lin Yi, so there was no need to hide anything. There weren't any other students present, anyway. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing were people that Lin Yi trusted, so he wasn't worried that they'd tell anyone. The corner of Xiaolong's mouth twitched. Indeed, the driver of the exploration car was dead, and he deserved it. Xiaolong was actually quite happy about it. It was a relief to him. He'd been holding back a lot of anger before, and when he found out that he was tricked by the driver, he felt even more depressed. Now that Lin Yi had helped him vent his anger, it was the same as helping him vent his anger. Then, what we do now? We can't just stay here forever, can we? Xiaolong's interest had waned. He'd thought that Lin Yi was afraid of ghosts, but Lin Yi wasn't afraid at all. He'd made a fool out of himself, so naturally, he didn't want to stay here any longer. But before Lin Yi could say anything, his phone rang. Lin Yi took out his phone and looked at the caller ID. He picked it up immediately. "Hello, Mr. Bot. Latest update, please." Chapter 2468. Cultivators Market. Lin Yi, where are you guys? How come I can't see your car? We've already visited the village, but you're nowhere to be seen. Where's that car? Boss Bai's nervous heart finally relaxed after hearing Lin Yi's voice. Everything is fine. Mr. Bai, I was just about to call you. We've run into some trouble here. Lin Yi started lying through his teeth. Earlier, the driver of our car seemed to be possessed. He drove the car onto a small road, and it wasn't the same road as the car in front of us. After that, the car stopped for no reason, and the driver screamed. Then, there was no more movement. We just checked, and it seems like the driver is dead. What? The driver is dead? Boss Bai was shocked. How'd he die? I think he was scared to death. Lin Yi said. Did he see something scary? How are you guys? Are you guys okay? Boss Bai quickly asked. We're okay, but we don't know where we are, and we don't dare to act recklessly. Lin Yi said. All right, don't move yet. I'll look for the people from the resort. This car seems to have a GPS system. Boss Bai said. All right. Lin Yi nodded. Lin Yi hung up. Xiaolong and Tiger Right hesitated, but didn't say anything. They weren't interested in exposing Lin Yi for scaring the driver to death. This was something the driver deserved, and to them, if they were to say anything bad to Lin Yi, they'd probably be the next ones to die. After Boss Bai hung up the phone, he immediately found the security team of the resort. When Captain Sun of the security team heard that the driver of the exploration car was scared to death, he was also shocked and turned to look at Dae Su. Dae Su wanted to scare Xiaolong and Tiger Right, but he didn't expect the driver to be dead as well. His face paled. Although he couldn't be held responsible for this matter, the exploration car driver had died while serving the resort. The resort would at least have to compensate a large sum of money. At that time, his uncle would definitely scold him. Thinking of this, Dae Su didn't reflect on his wrongdoings. Instead, he shifted his hatred onto Xiaolong and Tiger Right. Of course, he hated Lin Yi and Xinyan, who were in the same car. He had to take revenge, but now it couldn't be realized for the time being. He had to think of a way to calm things down quickly. If the news of the resort scaring someone to death were spread, who would come here to play? The matter was resolved quickly, and the resort used the GPS to locate Lin Yi and the others. They then sent another car to pick them up. The whole process was quick, and the body of the driver was taken away. What happened next had nothing to do with Lin Yi and the others. As for whether or not the resort would pay the driver's family a large sum of money, that was unknown. After returning to the resort, Han Jingjing and Xinyan were exhausted. Lin Yi hadn't fully recovered yet, so they went to bed early. Bai Wei Tuo, on the other hand, didn't come back until the middle of the night. Lin Yi and the others were in trouble, but didn't bother the other students. After all, they didn't experience it themselves. Lin Yi and the others had returned safely, so they went to play. They didn't come back until the early hours of the morning. They went skiing the next day, but Lin Yi, Xinyan, and Han Jingjing weren't as excited. They only went for a walk, and Tiger Yu and Xiaolong didn't even change their skis and skis. They weren't in a good mood, either. In the afternoon, everyone took the bus back to school. The winter outing was officially over. On the way back, it could be said to be smooth sailing. There were no car accidents or robberies. Soon, they arrived at the school. At the same time, Lin Yi received some good news. It made him feel better, but it was unrealistic to say that he wasn't depressed at all. That thing was residing in Lin Yi's jade. Lin Yi couldn't chase it away, nor could he communicate with it. He could only ignore it for now. Most importantly, Lin Yi couldn't ask others about this strange thing. He couldn't ask Old Pai or Faubert, because the secret of the jade couldn't be easily revealed to others. When Lin Yi returned to school, he received a call from Han Xiaopa. "Boss, I have good news," Han Xiaopa said directly after the call connected. "Oh, what good news?" Lin Yi's heart tightened. In the middle of this month, there will be a practitioner's market in the nearby Mount Elephant Heart, Han Xiaopa said. Han Xiaopa said, although the scale isn't large, with only a few loose practitioners and reclusive family members participating, these people might have good stuff in their hands. Who knows, they might even have the materials you need, boss. Oh, that's great. Lin Yi had been looking forward to the cultivator's market for a long time. He had Han Jingjing make so many small qi gathering pills in preparation for the cultivator's market. Lin Yi also had a bunch of random things he had won from the Hidden Houses Summit, so he could trade them for things he needed in the market. "Boss, if you're going to participate, I'll tell the organizer to reserve 2 spots, Han Xiaopa said. "Of course I'm going," Lin Yi said. "But is there anything I need in the market?" "Hard to say, but I heard there's pure topaz for sale," Han Xiaopa said. "Aside from me, other people need pure topaz?" Lin Yi couldn't help but be surprised. "I'm not sure, but it's said that when heaven-class masters temper their weapons, they use some good jade, and pure topaz is one of them. Of course, it's not the only one, so if boss needs it, it's not hard to get it. After all, not every heaven-class master needs this kind of pure topaz," Han Xiaopa explained. Han Xiaopa explained. During this period of time, he had been listening to these things. He had already learned about the uses of pure topaz, colored steel, and blue crystal powder. So that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded. "Then tell me, what price do I need to pay to get pure topaz?" "That's hard to say. It depends on how much pure topaz there is and what the person wants. If they don't need a material urgently, they just need to trade something of a higher value. If someone needs a material urgently, even if the material's value is lower than pure topaz, they'll still trade," Han Xiaopa said. Chapter 2469. Shu's Plan. What I have in my hands are the things we got from the Hidden House Summit, as well as some pills. Are these enough? More or less. The people who went this time were all solo practitioners, and there were also some guests or elders from the hidden houses and small sections. These people aren't that knowledgeable. "Boss, these things you have are good stuff," Han Xiaopa said after some thought. Han Xiaopa thought for a moment and said, "But just in case, it's best to prepare 1 or 2 especially valuable items in case of emergencies." "Something really valuable?" Lin Yi frowned. What did he have that was really valuable? He wasn't a disciple of some hidden house or sect, and he didn't have their resources. Lin Yi couldn't think of anything. "It's hard to say. Some people need this, some people need that. I'll bring some good stuff too, but I don't know if they'll be of help to you." Han Xiaopa was speaking the truth. Everyone had their own favorites. If the good stuff in your eyes wasn't useful to the practitioner, then the practitioner wouldn't trade it with you. "Okay, I'll prepare," Lin Yi nodded. After saying goodbye to Xinyan, Bai Wei Tuo, and the others, Lin Yi and Han Jingjing drove back to the villa in the Shueshang district. He just parked the car when he saw 2 beautiful figures in the yard. Yao Shu, why are you guys here?" Lin Yi asked as he got out of the car. "It's snowing, and Shu told me to build a snowman." Meng Yao smiled when she saw Lin Yi. "You're back." "Yeah, I'm back." Lin Yi nodded and was about to say something when a snowball came flying at him. Lin Yi dodged it and smiled bitterly. "Shu, you still use hidden weapons?" "Man, it's boring." "Shield bro, can't you just dodge?" "It's so boring." Yushu wanted to hit Lin Yi's head with a snowball, but she didn't expect Lin Yi to react so quickly. "Then I'll stand here, and you can start again?" Lin Yi laughed. "Forget it. Shield bro, help us build a snowman," Yushu said as she bent down and started sweeping the snow from the corner of the yard. "Before you came, Shu and I would build snowmen in the yard every winter when it snowed." Meng Yao explained with a smile. "There's someone from the management company clearing the snow outside, but we have to clear the snow inside ourselves. Shu and I made snowmen out of it." Lin Yi nodded, a little wistful. He'd been with Meng Yao and Yushu for almost a year in the blink of an eye. It was already the end of the year, and spring hadn't even started when he'd first arrived. "Jingjing, you want to come too?" Yushu asked after some hesitation. "Sure." Han Jingjing agreed happily. And so, the four of them started building a snowman in the yard. There wasn't much snow in the yard, so it didn't take long for the four of them to finish. The three entered the villa together. Lin went to cook, while Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and Han Jingjing chatted in the living room. Getting Han Jingjing on her side was something Yu Shu thought of on the spur of the moment. Wang Xinyan seemed to have something she couldn't say. Yu Shu could tell that Wang Xinyan liked Lin Yi, but she rejected Lin Yi and didn't tell Meng Yao the truth over the phone. Everyone had their own secrets. Yu Shu, who always liked to gossip, surprisingly didn't try to pry. She was the same as Wang Xinyan, having a secret that she couldn't divulge. She liked Lin Yi too, and she liked living in this villa, but she knew that one day, all of this would no longer belong to her. The hidden house used strength, to be honest, was like a mountain in front of Lin Yi. But now, Lin Yi's strength after the meeting of the hidden houses showed that he was on par with the hidden house Yu. Especially now that Lin Yi had broken through to Earth class mid-phase peak, House Yu would have to think twice before making a move on Lin Yi. Under this situation, Yu Shu knew that if she begged Lin Yi to save her parents, it wouldn't be too hard. At least, House Yu didn't want to openly go against Lin Yi. This could be seen from the fact that they didn't send masters to assassinate Lin Yi, instead using poison to assassinate him. They didn't want to have a direct confrontation with Lin Yi. At least, they didn't have a high chance of winning. So if Lin Yi failed to get Yu Shu's parents, Lin Yi and the hidden house Yu would completely fall out. If the hidden house Yu was just a hidden house Yu, it wouldn't matter, but Yu Shu knew that behind the hidden house Yu, there was an extremely powerful backer. When Yu Shu was young, Elder Yu had once let slip that his backer didn't even put the ancient sex in his eyes. Just what kind of existence was that? So, Yu Shu could only bury her worries and pain in her heart. She knew how strong Lin Yi was. Although Yu Shu seemed to be a troublemaker and would often cause trouble for Lin Yi, in reality, Yu Shu never messed with people that she couldn't afford to mess with. This was also her cleverness. She would rather suffer than bring trouble to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't even have the strength to take down the hidden house, not to mention the ancient sex. Even if Lin Yi could stand on equal footing with the ancient sex, he might not be able to go against the hidden house Yu. So, Yu Shu could only choose to accept it quietly and do her best to stay by Lin Yi's side. She could only muddle through the days with the warmth. Maybe one day, this warmth would leave her. She had pulled Han Jingjing over with the intention of replacing her. Yu Shu had chosen Xinyan because she wasn't a scheming person. Even if she moved into the villa, she wouldn't fight with Meng Yao for Meng Yao's favor. She wouldn't start an internal war. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, Yu Shu just couldn't see through her. This girl looked cute and cute, but Yu Shu didn't think that was the case at all. If she was the genius Shu, then she was the genius Jing. Things like scientific alchemy weren't something a normal person could come up with. As a result, Yu Shu felt that under Han Jingjing's cute and adorable appearance, there was a girl with an IQ similar to her own and a mind that was no less scheming than hers. A person like that, if they were on good terms with Meng Yao, would protect her and even help her out with some small problems. But if she wanted to fight with Meng Yao wouldn't be her match. Chapter 2470. Eating one meal, less meal however, Yu Shu had no other choice. After the two accidents failed, Yu Shu knew that although she was still staying in the villa, it wasn't long before she left. She had to arrange things after she left. Since Xinyan couldn't do it, Yu Shu could only choose Han Jingjing as her successor. Based on her observations, Han Jingjing didn't hold anything back towards Lin Yi. She even shared things like concocting pills with Lin Yi. It was evident that Han Jingjing didn't have any intentions of hiding anything from Lin Yi. As long as Han Jingjing was sincere towards Lin Yi, with Lin Yi around, Meng Yao wouldn't be at a disadvantage. So, this was Yu Shu's last resort. Someone had to accompany Meng Yao after she left, or else Meng Yao would be sad. After Lin Yi finished cooking, he realized that Han Jingjing and Yu Shu were chatting passionately about Big Big Wolf and Red Wolf. This made Lin Yi's eyes flash. Han Jingjing, have you seen Happy Goat and Big Big Wolf before? Every time Lin Yi went to look for her, she was always calculating something. He didn't see her watching TV at all. It was strange that she was chatting passionately with Yushu now. However, Mengyao didn't really participate in the discussion. She wasn't a talkative person. She only interjected once in a while. "Time to eat," Linny said. Yay. Shu loves shield bros cooking the most. "Every meal is one less meal," Yushu said as she stood up and ran towards the dining room. Eating one meal less, but Yushu's words made Lin Yi's heart sink. He had a bad feeling about this. He couldn't help but remember Shu's strange behavior that night. Although Shu said that she had taken care of everything, Lin Yi still felt uneasy. Jing, don't laugh at me. Shu's always like that, acting crazy all the time." Mengyao shrugged helplessly as she explained to Han Jingjing. "It's fine." Han Jingjing shook her head as a trace of confusion flashed in her eyes. She looked at Yushu thoughtfully before pulling a chair over and sitting beside her. How could Han Jingjing not sense Yushu's goodwill? But Han Jingjing didn't understand why Yushu would do that. Yushu's attitude towards her had been good, but she hadn't taken the initiative to get close to her. They were just good friends who were classmates and neighbors. Yushu's tone and actions today, however, were clearly different. How could Han Jingjing not be surprised? Lin Yi had been cooking in the kitchen and didn't have the habit of eavesdropping. Naturally, he didn't know what the three of them were talking about. "Big brother Lin Yi, why is your cooking so good? Jingjing wouldn't be able to cook something this good." Han Jingjing's words were subconsciously elevating Lin Yi's status. Jing, do you want to eat all the time? Actually, you can move in too," Yushu said with a smile. "This villa is big. One more person won't make much of a difference." Lin Yi frowned, but didn't say anything. He didn't say anything, but Mengyao, on the other hand, looked at Yushu oddly. Yushu rarely invited her love rivals to stay in the villa, and although she'd accepted Tang Yun, Xiao, and Xin Yan, she seemed to have accepted Han Jingjing all of a sudden. Mengyao was surprised. "Thanks, but my brother's at home. It's not good to leave him alone." Han Jingjing didn't agree immediately. This outcome surprised Yushu. Yushu was a little surprised. Xin Yan probably had her own reasons, but Han Jingjing didn't seem to have any such concerns. What was the reason then? The atmosphere during the meal was pretty good, but everyone had their own thoughts. Han Jingjing went back to rest. Mengyao and Yushu went upstairs, and Lin Yi went back to his room to practice the art of dragon mastery. The days went on as usual. She didn't do anything weird, but Lin Yi could tell that something was up from how she was trying her best to get Han Jingjing closer. But Lin Yi didn't stop her. Han Jingjing had long since been listed as one of Lin Yi's trustworthy people. She knew a lot of Lin Yi's secrets, and Lin Yi knew some of hers as well. The two of them worked together seamlessly, and naturally, Lin Yi wanted Mengyao and Yushu to have a good relationship with her. Right Coiling Tiger and Kong Xiaolong seemed to have become a lot more depressed. Ever since the winter outing, the two of them didn't hang around Lin Yi, Xin Yan, and Han Jingjing anymore. They went to class after class, ate, and left. Although Coiling Tiger wanted to continue interacting with Han Jingjing, he was afraid of Lin Yi's methods. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. When Coiling Tiger returned home and saw with his own eyes the Earth-class late-phase peak master killed by Lin Yi, and the Sky-class early-phase master injured by Lin Yi, Coiling Tiger fell silent. It was too easy for Lin Yi to kill him, and the only reason why he didn't was because they were classmates. Right Coiling Tiger didn't think that Lin Yi was afraid of him. Before House Yu carried the banner of the Sky Elixir sect, he believed that Lin Yi wasn't afraid of the hidden House Yu. This could be seen from the fact that Lin Yi didn't show any mercy. But although the hidden House Yu had the Sky Elixir sect as their backer, it was just a backer. Your backer was to deter your opponents, not to be your fighters. If someone suffered a loss, the Heavenly Elixir School would not intervene unless it was a great loss that would affect the interests of the school. Otherwise, the Heavenly Elixir School would not come to the secular world at will because of the death of a few of their disciples. Not to mention the restrictions of the other ancient sects. Even the place behind the Sky Elixir sect wouldn't allow them to go out and cause trouble at this critical moment. The opportunity to go to Sky Class Island was obviously too much for them. Everyone wanted to get a piece of the pie. Which Sky-class late-phase peak master didn't want to go one step further? Not to mention them, even the Sky-class late-phase masters didn't want to let go of this opportunity. Although the ancient sects had agreed a long time ago that the final list of people to go to Sky-class Island would be decided at the Sky-class meeting, in order to be fair, they would follow the previous agreement and give some chances to the hidden houses, small sects, and lone practitioners. At that time, there were special conditions for this opportunity. But even so, even if there were some conditions, the competition was still in full swing. None of the ancient sects wanted to let go of this opportunity. Think about it, which Sky-class late-phase peak master would give up so easily? So at this time, any sect that sent out a problem would become the target of public criticism. Although the Sky Elixir sect was powerful and overbearing, they didn't dare to violate the hard and fast rules of the agreement. Chapter 2476 _Schoolbells Bodyguard free reading _ Chapter 2476 1 meal less. 1 meal less. Chapter 2471 Meeting Yang Chi-Chi again. Ancient sects didn't meddle in the affairs of the common world. This was a rule that had been agreed upon for many years. As a result, all the ancient sects liked to use hidden houses as their spokespersons, not common houses or people from the common world. They were afraid of being accused of meddling in the common world. However, Pan Hu and Xiaolong's depression, in Lin Yi's eyes, was only temporary. Once this period passed, they'd jump out again. In truth, Lin Yi really didn't know what to do with them. With Boss Bai's rules, Lin Yi couldn't do anything to his classmates. He just hoped that they wouldn't cross the line. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the practitioners' market. Han Xiaopa drove to Lin Yi's villa early in the morning. It didn't take long to get to the practitioners' market, and Lin Yi didn't have to do much. He just had Qintian come back and take over as his bodyguard, taking Meng Yao, Yu Shu, Han Jingjing, and Han Xiaoqiao to school. As for the hidden house Pai, they were just staying here temporarily. Now that things were over, Elder Pai brought Pai Jishan and Pai Jihai back to the hidden house. Although the hidden house Yu and house Yu had tested them, and the hidden house council only existed in name, the hidden house Pai still didn't dare stay in the common world for long. Even if Lin Yi was strong, the founder of the hidden house council was even stronger. Boss, let's go. Did you bring everything? Han Xiaopa asked as he got off the car. Yeah, that's all. Lin Yi pointed at his backpack. Lin Yi didn't have much on him, other than the things he won from the Hidden House Summit. Lin Yi still had some pills Han Jingjing made. The most valuable thing he had was the ice crystal turtle spit he got from the lake in the valley, but Lin Yi didn't know how much it was worth. From how much the Sky-class turtle valued it, it must be very valuable. Then let's go. Han Xiaopa nodded and gestured for Lin Yi to get in the car. Elephant Heart Mountain was located between East Ocean City and Songshan City. That was because it was surrounded by mountains. Mount Elephant Heart was one of them. However, Mount Elephant Heart was very remote, and there were no tourist attractions on the mountain, so it was rarely visited. When Han Xiaopa arrived at the foot of Elephant Heart Mountain, he found that it was very crowded. In an open space at the foot of the mountain, luxury cars gathered. There were Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Land Rovers, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and other top luxury cars. There were also many sports cars. This situation made Lin Yi secretly click his tongue. It seemed that these cultivators were very rich. On the other hand, Han Xiaopa was driving a Mercedes-Benz, which was considered ordinary here. However, these luxury cars did not have license plates. Instead, it was replaced by a special pass that was stuck on the original license plate. Han Xiaopa's car was naturally stuck on it before going up the mountain. It represented the cars that came to participate in the cultivator market. It was also to prevent cars that didn't know the truth from affecting the privacy and normal transactions of the market. Han Xiaopa seemed to have noticed Lin Yi's surprise, so he smiled and said, "How can there be poor cultivators? Even these guest elders and disciples are affiliated with the hidden families and sects, so they have a lot of money every month. As for those independent cultivators, they're basically the guards of some rich bosses, and their treatment is not bad." I see. Lin Yi nodded and put on a mask with Han Xiaopa. Then, They got out of the car together. People who came to participate in the cultivators' market square would usually mask their faces or disguise themselves. This was a custom that had been formed in the cultivators' market for many years. It wasn't a requirement of the market square's organizers, but these people who participated in the cultivators' market were afraid of showing their true faces to others. After the transaction, there would be people robbing them. After all, everyone who came here was to trade treasures. If someone targeted them, there would be endless trouble. This was also to keep their identity secret. Of course, there were some who thought highly of themselves, such as Earth-class late-phase peak and Sky-class early-phase experts, but they didn't wear masks. These people's strength was there for all to see, and they were usually the top figures in this kind of small market. Naturally, they weren't afraid of people having any ideas about them. As for cultivators of higher levels, they might not be interested in the things that these Earth-rank cultivators were trading. Lin Yi and Han Xiaopa's appearance didn't attract much attention, because the two were too ordinary. The car they drove was low-key, and the masks made it hard to tell who was who. On the other hand, Lin Yi looked at the cultivators who came to participate in the market. Most of them were Mystic-class and Earth-class early-phase masters. As for Earth-class late-phase masters and above, there weren't many. Sky-class Lin Yi didn't see any of these people. Lin Yi was still wearing the male thief's mask, but under it was a layer of the 1,000 silk mask that the Sky-class spider gave him. The purpose of this was double insurance. In case the mask fell off, his identity wouldn't be exposed. There were all sorts of people in this practitioner market, and Lin Yi didn't want too much attention on him. After getting off the car, Lin Yi followed Han Xiaopa to the foot of the mountain. It didn't take long before they saw a group of people gathered around to watch the show. Lin Yi wasn't a person who liked to watch crowds. He glanced at them faintly and wanted to go around them. But Han Xiaopa said, "Boss, let's go take a look. Maybe there's something good." Lin Yi's footsteps paused for a moment, but he nodded. Han Xiaopa was right. Usually, Lin Yi wouldn't go watch the show. But here, if Han Xiaopa said there was something good, then it might be true. And so, Lin Yi decided to go with Han Xiaopa. But when Lin Yi's eyes fell on the two people in the center of the scene, he couldn't help but frown. One of them was someone Lin didn't know or care about, but the other one was someone Lin Yi had a deep impression of. Wasn't it Yang Qiqi? Qiqi was wearing a black mask, but that black leather jacket and pants, and that cold, murderous expression. Lin Yi recognized her right away. Naturally, Lin Yi had a deep impression of someone he was familiar with, especially this Yang Qiqi. Whether it was that time in Songzhan, or the time in Blue Town, or even the time in the Ice Palace test, she had left a deep impression on Lin Yi. Others might not be able to recognize her, but Lin Yi could with one look. And this cool girl seemed to be a punching bag? Chapter 2477, The Campus Belle's Bodyguard, is free to read. Meet Yang Qiqi update complete. Chapter 2472. She'd been bullied in the Ice Palace test, and now she was being bullied here as well. Looking at her, it seemed like she'd been taken advantage of. She wasn't hurt, but she was panting heavily. The other person was a skinny man with a green mask on. He was an Earth-class early phase. He was looking at Qiqi arrogantly. "Girl, if you know what's good for you, hand it over. We'll trade fairly. Don't be so shameless." You put it nicely, fair trade. Let's not talk about whether or not what you're trading is worth as much as mine. I don't want to trade with you. And you want to force me to sell? Do you really think you're the only one in this market? Qiqi glared at the skinny man. You've gone too far. Girl, you don't understand the situation, do you? Of course, you can't force someone to buy or sell in the market. But outside the market, fists do the talking. The skinny man chuckled, not caring at all about Qiqi's anger. He wasn't ashamed, but proud. If your fists are bigger, you can take my stuff back. You. Qiqi's chest heaved. She was pissed, but she knew that she wasn't a match for this person. She was a mystic late phase peak physical practitioner, and this man was an Earth-class early phase, a spiritual practitioner at that. She wasn't a match for him. In fact, Qiqi knew that she wasn't a match for him the moment he tried to steal her stuff. Just one palm strike was enough to make her suffer. An Earth class that knew how to use their techniques was different. They weren't on the same level as a mystic. Chi-Chi's forte was lightness kung fu, too. Her level was there, but she wasn't good at fighting. If they were to really fight, Chi-Chi would definitely be at a disadvantage. This was also why Chi-Chi didn't dare to make a move, even though she was angry. But no matter how weak Chi-Chi was, the people watching from the side were just watching, and no one was going to help. They could see that Chi-Chi was being bullied, but no one wanted to cause trouble at a time like this. Lin Yi frowned and hesitated. Should he help or not? Lin Yi didn't want to cause any trouble. He just wanted to exchange for what he needed. After exchanging, he would leave immediately. He didn't want to complicate matters. Yang Chi-Chi, on the other hand, was someone Lin Yi was familiar with. She might have bitten the hand that fed her, but Lin Yi had seen her body, and they'd worked together back in the Ice Palace trial. Just as Lin Yi was hesitating, the skinny man spoke again. What are you all looking at? All of you disperse for this daddy. Do you still want to stand up for this girl? As soon as the skinny man spoke, the onlookers subconsciously took 2 steps back. Obviously, this skinny man had some power. Although his face was covered, there were definitely people who recognized him. Or rather, he was a tyrant in the market, doing things like this all the time. It was just that most people didn't dare say anything about it. Those who got bullied were usually pushovers, and no one would stand up for them, even if they got bullied. The stronger practitioners didn't care about this sort of thing, either. It was a very normal thing in the world of practitioners. Chi-Chi gritted her teeth, almost crying. It hadn't been easy for her to find out the location of the market. She'd signed up and brought her treasures to trade for some medicine to keep little Gio's sickness. She didn't think that her treasures would be taken away before she even entered the market. It was her fault for being inexperienced. She was afraid that she'd lose out later on, so she'd taken her treasures out for others to evaluate before entering the market. That was how the skinny man had his eyes on her. Chi-Chi didn't think that the market would be this chaotic. She'd heard that the market was fair and just, and people could reject if they didn't want to trade. Who knew that this would happen before they even entered the market? Then where's the thing you wanted to trade with me? Chi-Chi saw that no one was speaking up for her, and that most of the people had left after the skinny man's shout. She knew that she'd be at a disadvantage this time. She could only go for the next best thing. Oh, this is a 2nd-level pill. A small chi gathering pill. Seeing that you're a mystic late phase peak, it'll help you level up to Earth class. The skinny man took out a small box from his pocket and handed it to Chi-Chi. How is it? Fair, right? Chi-Chi felt wronged, but there was nothing she could do. My blue crystal is worth more than a small chi gathering pill, right? In actuality, a 2nd-level pill was worth a lot of money. But those who'd seen the whole process knew that Chi-Chi's item was worth even more. The blue crystal, on the other hand, was worth a lot of money. Just like some of the highest quality jade stones, it was a great material for crafting weapons. In this era, blacksmiths had already disappeared. Fortunately, there were still some divine weapons passed down from ancient times. However, these divine weapons might not be the most suitable divine weapons. Divine weapons were also divided into the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. For cultivators who cultivated in the gold element cultivation method, it was best to use the gold element divine weapons. If they used the water element divine weapons, they would naturally not be able to achieve the best effect. However, cultivators often couldn't decide the attributes of the divine weapons in their hands. It was already not easy to obtain a divine weapon. So how could they be picky? Where would you find the right attribute for a weapon to choose from? As a result, it was time to modify the weapon. The modification method was to use the essence blood of a sky-class spirit beast or a part of its body, and put it into the furnace with the weapon. This would change the weapon's attribute. For example, the blood of a metal-type heaven-rank spirit beast could transform a divine weapon into a metal-type weapon. Of course, this modification wasn't a 100% success. The success rate depended on the materials used during the tempering. This material was jade, and pure topaz was one of them. The purer and more jade stones were added, the higher the chance of successfully refining the divine weapon's attribute. If one were to say that this pure jade was very precious to the cultivation world, then the blue crystal was even more precious. The effect of the blue crystal was even more heaven-defying. It could turn a weapon into a weapon that could be used by an Earth class. The School Beauty's personal expert welcomed readers to log in. Read the full text. Chapter 2473. Everyone knew that only a Sky class could imbue Qi into a weapon of the same element to maximize its power. Earth classes, on the other hand, couldn't imbue Qi into their weapons, and so it was better not to use it in a fight. It was a burden, not as practical as a skill. However, there were also exceptions. For example, this godly weapon had a large amount of blue crystals added during the tempering process. After the tempering process was successful, an Earth rank expert could instill Zhen Qi into it. However, the amount of Zhen Qi instilled depended on the amount of blue crystals added. Chi-Chi only had a small piece of blue crystal in her hand, and it really wasn't enough for anything, but it was still priceless. It was something an Earth class couldn't get their hands on. Normally speaking, it was a very difficult process for an Earth class to break through to Sky class, and so the Earth class kept collecting them. Perhaps they would be able to enjoy the power of a weapon before breaking through. Blue crystal? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He didn't think that Chi-Chi would have something like this. This surprised Lin Yi. He didn't want to stick his nose into other people's business, but now he changed his mind. Lin Yi didn't really care if Chi-Chi got hurt or not. But this blue crystal was something Lin Yi had to get. So, you don't want the small Qi gathering pill anymore. The skinny man took back the small Qi gathering pill and put it back in his pocket. It was only now that everyone realized that this skinny man didn't even want to give up the pill. He was robbing them. But even if it was an open robbery, they wouldn't say anything. After all, it wasn't their belongings and it didn't matter. Chi-Chi's tears were welling up in her eyes. She wasn't a spiritual practitioner, and she couldn't break through to Earth class even if she wanted the pill. Exchanging the blue crystal for the pill was a big loss, but not giving it up was an even bigger loss. And so Chi-Chi nodded, depressed. I want it. You want it? Too late. The skinny man chuckled. I didn't want it before, but I'm not giving it up now. Give it to her. Lin Yi really couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Yi also knew how to bully people, but Lin Yi always bullied people who had a grudge against him. Lin Yi would never do such a thing if there was no enmity between them. The skinny man in front of him was a perfect example of going too far. Who are you? The skinny man did not expect that there would be someone who would meddle in other people's business. It was not the first time he had done this kind of thing, but it was the first time someone stood up for him. But he wasn't afraid. Revealing his Earth-class strength, he sneered at Lin Yi. Are you sure you want to stand up for her? From the skinny hemp pole's perspective, Lin Yi was a hothead. As long as he revealed his strength, Lin Yi would definitely get lost obediently. But what he didn't expect was that Lin Yi wasn't affected at all. He took out the pill box from his pocket and threw it to Chi-Chi. Take it. Don't trade with people like this next time. Oh, Chi-Chi was a little displeased. Why didn't Lin Yi take her blue crystal back? Why was he giving it to her instead? Why was this guy like this not helping her to the end? Half of it. But still, Lin Yi did help. Chi-Chi had no choice but to accept it. Thank you. The skinny man frowned when he saw that his aura didn't work. But after some hesitation, he gave up on asking for the pill. He turned to Lin Yi. All right, you're done here. I'm leaving. Whose father are you? Lin Yi frowned and humphed coldly. I'm warning you, kid, don't meddle in other people's business. I'm not just one person. The skinny man could guess that Lin Yi was an Earth class. After all, his aura didn't affect Lin Yi at all. But he wasn't afraid, either. He was one of the three brothers, and all three of them were Earth class. They had powerful backgrounds as well. This was why he wasn't afraid. Be careful. You won't be able to enter the market. According to your theory, the one with the harder fist is the boss, right? Lin Yi said with a smile on the skinny guy's face. Good that you know. The skinny man didn't hear the mockery in Lin Yi's tone. He nodded as if it was a matter of course. Others might not know, but the skinny man knew his own family. The three brothers were the three disciples of the vice chairman of the Cultivator Trading Association. The eldest and second brother were in charge of checking the qualifications of the cultivators market. If Lin Yi were to really cause trouble, he'd just have to tell his eldest and second brother, and Lin Yi wouldn't even be able to enter the market. Oh, if that's the case, I have a soul-gathering pill here. Lin Yi took out a small bottle from his backpack and handed it to the skinny man. This is a first-level pill. It's good enough for you. I'll use this to exchange for the blue crystal. The skinny man was stunned, but then he laughed. Ha 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 ha, kid, are you sure you're not joking? You're the funniest person I've ever seen. But the skinny guy didn't even get to finish before Lin Yi slapped him across the face. Slap! Half of the guy's face swelled up. You hit me? The skinny man didn't expect Lin Yi to suddenly attack without any warning. Usually, in a conflict like this, both sides would first say a few words to show off, and then they'd start fighting. It wasn't like there was any deep hatred between them, so who would attack without even knowing each other? So the skinny man didn't use his pure chi to protect his body. His face swelled up, and he gritted his teeth in anger. He wanted to attack, but Lin Yi suddenly released the aura of an Earth-class mid-phase peak. The skinny man's expression turned ugly. Earth-class mid-phase peak? Deal or no deal? Lin Yi looked at the skinny guy coldly. So what if I get it to you first? The skinny man knew that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. One of his brothers was an Earth-class late-phase peak, but they were guarding the entrance of the market right now. There was no way they'd come to help him. He took a deep breath and took out the blue crystal from his pocket, handing it over to Lin Yi. However, he was already hating Lin Yi. He'd memorized Lin Yi's face and was prepared to let his brothers know when Lin Yi entered the market. He'd give Lin Yi and Yang Chi-Chi some trouble. Lin Yi smiled coldly as he put the blue crystal away. Up until now, no one had said anything. It was as if these people didn't care about the skinny man bullying Yang Chi-Chi and Lin Yi bullying the skinny man. They were just there to watch the show and then left. The school beauty's personal expert, welcome to log in. Read the full text. Chapter 2474. Chi-Chi frowned as she watched Lin Yi put the crystal away. This guy really wasn't a good person, after all. He didn't really want to help her. He just wanted to use this as an excuse to take the crystal for himself. Chi-Chi frowned as she watched Lin Yi put the crystal away. And this guy was even more tyrannical, using a first-level pill to trade for the blue crystal. That skinny guy was losing out big time. But Chi-Chi knew that if she asked Lin Yi for the blue crystal now, she'd be asking for it. So, after some hesitation, she came up with a good idea. She calmed herself down and pretended to be very grateful as she walked over to Lin Yi. Warrior, thank you. Lin Yi looked at Chi-Chi oddly. Warrior? Ugh. Chi-Chi paused as well. She didn't have much experience in the Jianghu, and she grew up in a foreign country. Her knowledge of the Jianghu was limited to those wuxia movies and TV dramas. She didn't know how to address Lin Yi, but warrior didn't seem right. That's a warrior. Lin Yi was speechless. Where did this cool girl learn all these weird terms? Thank you for helping out just now. Chi-Chi realized that the terms she'd learned in the Jianghu weren't quite right, so she decided to just say it. Oh, it's nothing, Lin Yi said faintly as he looked at Chi-Chi. As for Chi-Chi thanking him, Lin Yi didn't believe that. He'd taken the blue crystal from this girl, and not only did she not dare ask for it back, she was even trying to get close to him. This wasn't Chi-Chi's personality at all. Naturally, Lin Yi didn't believe that Chi-Chi was really thanking him. In fact, anyone could tell that Lin Yi had only helped her out of convenience. His true goal was still the blue crystal, but he'd taken it from the skinny guy legitimately. Boss, they're about to enter. Shall we go? Han Xiaopa reminded Lin Yi. In a place like this, it was best not to interact too much with strangers. After all, there was no knowing what was in a person's heart. Who knew if it would bring unnecessary trouble? All right, we'll part ways here then, Mississippi Lin Yi said with a smile. I'll wait. Yang Chi-Chi didn't want Lin Yi to leave just like that. How was she supposed to get her blue crystal back if Lin Yi left? So Chi-Chi quickly stopped Lin Yi. Is there anything else? Lin Yi asked. The people here are dangerous, and I've just entered the Jianghu. I wonder if you could help me out and let me go with you? Chi-Chi heard Lin Yi call her a heroine, So she started calling Lin a swordsman. In fact, this was also how the world addressed each other. It was just that it was not commonly used. Is that so? All right then. Lin nodded and agreed. In truth, this was Yang Chi-Chi. If it were someone else, Lin wouldn't have agreed so readily. Han Xiaopa frowned. He wanted to remind Lin to reject the offer, but decided against it. Lin was the boss, after all. He had his own plans, and so Han Xiaopa didn't say anything more. Thank you. Chi-Chi was overjoyed. As long as he said yes, she'd work hard to get the blue crystal back. That was something she needed to exchange for Little Nine's life. She couldn't let Lin take it no matter what. A second-level pill was valuable, but it was far less valuable than the blue crystal. 10 second-level pills might not even be enough to exchange for a small piece of blue crystal. Chi-Chi was looking for the ultimate treasure, and so she had to get it back. Otherwise, she'd have to go back empty-handed. Plus, according to the information, the treasure that could sustain Little Nine's life did exist in this market. The three walked together, but Lin noticed that the people around them were keeping a respectful distance from them. The strength that Lin had shown just now was above average, and in the eyes of most of the mystics, he was an unreachable existence. Especially since Lin had been so domineering, bullying that skinny guy until he didn't dare say a word. As a result, most people thought of Lin as a dangerous person, a troublemaker. They walked quickly to the foot of the mountain, and there was a checkpoint. It seemed that this was the place to verify one's identity. Lin couldn't help but think of the scene in the Wulong Haut Mountains. Take out the invitation letter. Hey kid, is this invitation letter yours? You're just a golden class late phase peak. Is this a place for a scumbag like you to come to? The younger of the two guards grabbed a skinny man who was at the peak late phase of the golden class. Big brothers, this invitation is real. I signed up through the trade association. Masters at the peak of the late phase of the golden class were quite powerful in the common world, but here they were at the bottom of the food chain, so they had to be careful. It wasn't strange that Lin could see through this person's strength, since Lin had a golden finger. But these two guards didn't have one, and it was quite unbelievable that they could see through the golden class late phase peak strength without using any incantations or skills. Really? Even if the invitation is real, who knows where you got it from? You might have picked it up from a dead body. The older man raised an eyebrow and said coldly, All right, if there's nothing else, then get out of here. The master at the peak of the late phase of the golden class suddenly felt helpless. He gritted his teeth, took out a small box from his bag, and handed it over along with the invitation. Big brothers, this invitation was indeed picked up from a dead man, but he also had this thing on him. Since that man is dead, this thing should also belong to the Returnees Trading Association, so I'll hand it over. Let me see. The young man smiled when he saw that the golden class late phase peak was so obedient, and he took the small box and opened it. It was a first-level medicinal pill, and he nodded. Not bad. Since you didn't keep the money you picked up, please come in. Thank you, big brothers. The young man who was at the peak of the late phase of the golden class quickly walked into the market. Lin had been carefully observing the two guards, and it was obvious that they were looking for trouble, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. This kind of situation made Lin very disdainful. Chapter 2475. It was obvious that they were asking for bribes, but they did it openly. The organizer of this market was probably not a good person. Without the approval and connivance of the higher-ups, they wouldn't dare to do this. According to Lin Yi's observation, as long as one's strength was slightly lower, they would be more or less harassed. There were all sorts of reasons. Even the reason of being disheveled was used. Of course, there were a few who were lucky enough to escape. However, these people dared not say anything and obediently paid the bribe before they were allowed to enter the market. But for those of higher levels, such as those of Earth rank and above, they were not harassed. After looking at the invitation, they were allowed to pass. It seemed that these people were the type to bully the weak and fear the strong. Get out of the way, let my grandfather go first. Just as Lin, E, and the others followed the people in front of them to the entrance, an angry shout came from behind them. Then, a luxuriously dressed young man strode over, pushing the people on both sides of him aside. The young man didn't wear a mask, and the short old man behind him didn't wear a mask either. The two of them, one in front and one behind, walked briskly towards them, not putting anyone in their eyes at all. This young man's strength was not high. Lenny took a look and saw that he was only at the peak of early Earth rank. However, the old man behind him was not simple. He was actually a heaven rank early stage master. However, what made Lenny a little surprised was that this heaven rank master was the one sent by the hidden house of you to block the road and was injured by Lenny. This guy's injury was already healed, but thinking about it, he was a guest of the hidden house of you, and the hidden house of you was an alchemy family. Naturally, they had plenty of pills. They might not have enough for people like Udake, but for heaven rank masters, they would definitely have enough. After all, heaven rank masters were very rare for the hidden houses. The short old man did not hide his heaven rank aura at all. In fact, he should have done it on purpose to highlight his abnormality. Although there were some Earth-class mid and Earth-class late-stage masters who were pushed away by the young man, they all obediently moved to the side and kept quiet. Their fear of a Sky-class master came from the bottom of their hearts. However, Lin Yi didn't dodge. He was very calm. When the young man walked over, Lin Yi just dodged the young man's hand. With regards to Lin Yi's evasion, the young man seemed to be very annoyed. He coldly snorted and glared at Lin Yi. However, because his grandfather was behind him, he didn't have the time to argue with Lin Yi. However, he had already memorized the appearance of Lin Yi's mask in his heart. He was ready to find an opportunity to deal with Lin Yi after entering the market. When the two guards saw a heaven stage expert walking over, they immediately smiled and welcomed him respectfully. "Please come in. Please come in." The short expert snorted, then quickly walked into the market with the young man. The two guards didn't even check their invitation, but Sky-class masters were very qualified to enter a low-end market like this. Even if they didn't have an invitation, they wouldn't stop them. Young Chi-Chi saw this and couldn't help but snort. They really bullied the weak and feared the strong. These two guards were exactly the same as the skinny man who robbed her before. They were practically a family. But what Chi-Chi didn't know was that she was right. These three really were a family of three brothers. The short expert entering the market didn't have any effect on the others. It seemed that most people were already used to it and felt that heaven rank experts should have such extravagance. The two guards also returned to their despicable appearance and continued to bully the soft persimmon. When it was Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Yang Chi-Chi's turn, Lin Yi thought that after the two showed their invitation, they'd be able to pass without a hitch. What he didn't expect was for the two guards to stop them. "You have a nice body, aren't you? Pretty hot. Which sector are you from? Is the invitation real?" The young guard looked at Yang Chi-Chi and asked in a flirtatious tone. "I'm a freelancer," Yang Chi-Chi said. "Outer sect freelancer? That's rare, isn't it?" The older guard chimed in as well. "You don't look like a good person to me. I suspect that you're hiding something dangerous on you. Take off your clothes and let us search you." "You." Yang Chi-Chi's face went red with anger at the two's shameless words. Her face was covered by the black mask, but one could still see the flames of anger in her eyes. "This is a legitimate invitation from the trade association. I paid the deposit. How could it be fake?" "Ha! Us brothers have been guarding the door for so many years. You think we can't tell if it's real or fake? If we say it's fake, then it's fake. Don't waste your breath. Search us or get the hell out of here," the young guard said with a cold smile. "Then what's wrong with our invitation?" Han Xiaopa was also a little annoyed. Although these two guards liked to bully the weak, they still knew how to read the situation. They knew to bully the Golden and Mystic class masters. As for the Earth class masters, they would let them pass without exception. As for the Heaven class masters, they would even greet them respectfully. But it was Lin Yi and Han Xiaopa who were in trouble. Naturally, Han Xiaopa was a little annoyed. "We're Earth class. We have invitation. We know you're Earth class. One early phase, one mid-phase peak," the older guard said coldly. "We're not blind. We can tell. As the old guard spoke, Lin Yi finally understood. The old guard had a strange compass in his hand, and it was probably because of this compass that they were able to see through a person's strength. Lin Yi didn't have any intention of meddling in their business, but now that the matter had fallen onto his head, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't let them get away with it. He looked at the two in front of him and said coldly, "If you're not blind, then let us pass. Otherwise, I don't mind turning you into a real blind man." "How dare you?" The young guard was furious after hearing Lin Yi's words. "A mere Earth-class mid-phase peak, and you dare yell in front of me? Do you want to die? Your invitation is fake. I'm confiscating it. You can get the hell out of here." As he spoke, the young guard picked up the invitation letter and tore it into pieces, throwing it in the air. The wind blew the pieces away, and they scattered in all directions. Chapter 2476. Vice leader from Lin Yi's strength was no longer the same as before. It was different from when he fought against the third elder at the Red Conch headquarters. Now, if he were to face an Earth-class late-phase peak, as long as it wasn't too much a freak, he could easily kill them. Of course, the Taggin Dragon was a special exception. Before, when Lin Yi defeated an Earth-class late-phase expert, it was still understandable. It could be explained by Lin Yi's exquisite martial arts. But now, besides Han Xiaopa, no one else was optimistic about Lin Yi's chances of winning. An Earth-class late-phase peak. What kind of concept was that? That was a half-step Sky-class expert, and his Earth-class martial arts had been trained to the limit. He could use the 10th form, but Lin Yi could only use the 6th form. The result of this collision was obvious. Moreover, in the eyes of most people, although Lin Yi was standing there without moving, the young guard was already injured to that extent. How could Lin Yi not be injured at all? Even if he was standing there, he must have suffered some serious internal injuries. This was inevitable. The more Lin Yi fought, the more serious his injuries would be. After all, he was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, not a Sky-class. Not to mention Lin Yi's strength. Even an Earth-class late-phase peak would be heavily injured if they went head-to-head with an Earth-class late-phase peak. Not to mention that Lin Yi wasn't even an Earth-class late-phase peak. However, just as everyone was thinking that Lin Yi's next move would be a bloody mess, they were all disappointed. The Elder Guard was once again sent flying by Lin Yi's attack, falling right beside the young guard. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes rolled back, and he fainted. He seemed to be in an even worse state than the young guard from before. Beep, 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 beep. In addition to the two guards at the entrance of the market, there were also a number of workers here. However, these workers weren't Earth-class masters. They were just ordinary Golden-class disciples. At this time, they saw the two guards being beheaded by Lin Yi. He was so frightened that he hurriedly pressed the emergency alarm and called for the experts in the market square to come and help. Everyone else looked at Lin Yi with fear and shock in their eyes, backing away subconsciously, not daring to get too close to Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Chi-Chi. They were afraid that Lin Yi would vent his anger on them, and they were also afraid that the people from the Cultivator Trade Association would come out and treat them as Lin Yi's accomplices. "What are you guys doing?" Lin Yi looked at the staff. He asked coldly. The Golden-class late-phase peak master who rang the alarm paled upon hearing Lin Yi's question. He wanted to run, but he didn't dare. There was no way he could run in front of an Earth-class mid-phase peak. Plus, this was a special master who could easily kill an Earth-class late-phase peak. Therefore, he was so scared that his forehead was covered in cold sweat. After a while, he stammered, "Senior, you killed someone here. We can only inform the people in the cultivator's market." "Oh, that's good." Lin Yi nodded. "This will have to be dealt with eventually. Thank you for your understanding, Senior." The Golden-class late-phase peak forced a smile as if relieved of a heavy burden. He looked at Lin Yi gratefully. Lin Yi didn't move. He just stood there with his hands behind his back. These two guards were domineering. Although the two guards were domineering, Lin Yi didn't believe that the big shots of the Cultivator Trade Association would be so domineering. Even if these two people were their disciples and their behavior was tacitly approved by them, at least in public, They couldn't support such a blatant act of blocking cultivators from entering the market and looking for trouble to bribe them. Of course, there was the possibility of backstabbing or looking for trouble, but they definitely wouldn't fall out with Lin Yi right there and then. If that happened, it would be the same as disappointing the hearts of all cultivators. Originally, a high deposit had been paid for the entrance invitation, and this deposit was not refundable. If they had to pay a tribute when entering, it would be a little hard to say. If it was the personal actions of the two guards, it would be understandable. But if the Cultivator Trade Association openly supported this kind of unhealthy practice, then it would be a little unreasonable. Who dares to cause trouble here? A cold voice suddenly sounded. An old man surrounded by two disciples walked quickly towards Lin Yi's side. He walked quickly towards Lin Yi's direction, his face changing as he saw the two guards on the ground. How dare you? You dare to kill people from the Cultivator Trade Association, Law Enforcement Hall disciples. Take him down. Yes. The two disciples immediately cupped their fists and replied. Then they rushed towards Lin Yi. This old man was a peak early heaven class master, and the two so-called Law Enforcement Hall disciples behind him were peak late earth class masters. This lineup was not small, but against Lin Yi, it was really not enough. Once upon a time, the peak late earth class and the peak early heaven class masters were existences that Lin Yi looked up to. Back in the Wulonghout Mountains, Lin Yi also had no chance of winning, but with the passage of time, Lin Yi didn't feel any pressure standing here. Even if he fought head-on, he was confident that he could make this peak early heaven class master stay. Old thing, you're not distinguishing between right and wrong, are you? Lin Yi laughed coldly as he watched the two peak late earth class disciples walk over. Look at the strength of those two on the ground, then think about whether or not you can take me down. The two Law Enforcement Hall disciples stopped in their tracks, their expressions changing. Before, they only saw that Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase peak master, and they didn't think too much about it, because they were Earth-class late-phase peak masters. But now that Lin Yi reminded them, they knew that something was wrong. The two people on the ground were Earth-class late-phase peak, and one was Earth-class late-phase peak, and both of them were killed by Lin Yi. The two Earth-class late-phase peak disciples of the Hall of Law Enforcement weren't enough. Brat, are you threatening us? The peak early heaven-class old man frowned and snorted, killing people here, and you think you're in the right. Why don't you first ask why I killed those two guards, and who made the first move? Do you think that the Cultivators Trade Association can be unreasonable? Lin Yi smiled coldly as he retorted, You guys can protect your own people, but you have to be reasonable. Ask the disciple who sent you the alarm. How did this happen? As Lin Yi said that, he looked at the golden class disciple who alerted him. Chapter 24, 83 _ School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 24, 83 Vice Chairman Update complete. Chapter 24, 77. The old man took a deep breath and tried to suppress his anger. He turned to look at the yellow class disciple. With so many cultivators watching, he couldn't twist the truth even though the two guards were his disciples. He could only ask, Tell me what's going on? This is what happened. The yellow class disciple didn't dare to speak carelessly in front of so many cultivators, so he could only tell the truth. Otherwise, what integrity would the Cultivator Trade Association have if he were to publicly misrepresent them? One had to know that the Cultivator Trade Association earned money from the invitations. Most of the profits came from the auctions. The reason why the auctions were sought after was because the Cultivator Trade Association was fair. They didn't sell fake goods and had a good reputation. Otherwise, who would they sell their goods to? Although these two disciples asked for bribes from the cultivators who entered while guarding the gate, the heaven-rank old man, as their master, turned a blind eye and acquiesced to the existence of this situation. In fact, it was also because this situation didn't cause any trouble. Those cultivators who wanted to enter the market could only accept it. Who would dare to fight back like Lin Yi? Most people were afraid of the strength of the guards and didn't want to give up the opportunity to enter the market, so they swallowed their anger. As for the high-level cultivators, the two guards didn't dare to make things difficult for them. This was also the reason why they lived in peace. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would be such a prick? After a conflict, he directly killed someone. The two guards had kicked an iron plate. The vice president's face darkened when he heard the words of the yellow class disciple. In fact, he had thought that the two guards might have deliberately made things difficult for them and failed to bribe them. Then, they angered Lin Yi and killed them. But he wasn't sure. In his impression, the two guards had a sense of propriety. They usually picked on cultivators of the yellow class and the mystic class. Even mystic late phase and above rarely went looking for trouble, not to mention an earth class, especially one that was at the peak of mid-phase. That was even more unlikely. As a result, he was still hoping that his two disciples wouldn't be that stupid. If it really was some other conflict, even if his disciple made the first move, Lin Yi would still be the killer, and he'd be able to find a reason to take revenge. But now, it seemed that they really tried to bribe Lin Yi, and Lin Yi had no choice but to make a move. Although the vice president hated Lin Yi, he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi in front of so many people. He could only wait until the end of the Cultivator Trade Association and find a chance to make a move. So that's how it is. I've wronged this little brother. The vice president looked at Lin Yi with a gentle expression and nodded. I'm sorry. Here, on behalf of the Cultivator Trade Association, I apologize to you, little brother. This is a problem caused by our lax management. These two disciples, even if you didn't make a move, we would have gotten rid of them if we found out the truth. That's good. Lin Yi nodded. On the surface, he looked very respectful, but in his heart, he was cursing. This old man really knew how to pretend to be a good person. He probably hated Lin Yi to death. All right, since the matter has been resolved, then, little brother, please enter. The vice president could only temporarily put down his hatred and said, however, if something like this happens again, I hope you won't make a move on your own. As long as you hand over some information to us, we will expose you. We won't let these vermin and scum go. After all, this is our turf. We won't pursue it outside of the market, but in the market, please follow our rules. Well said, well said. Lin Yi smiled coldly. Expose me to you? Where'd I go to find you? If it wasn't for the yellow class disciple warning you to come out, I would have been able to go in and find you. If I didn't kill your two disciples, I would have had to leave with my tail between my legs. Take over their previous job and check the invitations. The vice president of Heaven Division ordered the previous Huang class disciple. Yes, vice president. The yellow class disciple replied carefully. The Heaven rank vice president nodded before turning around and leaving. The two law enforcement hall disciples also quickly carried the two guards into the market, their fates unknown. Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Yang Qiqi followed them into the market. The people around them all moved out of the way, afraid that if they pissed off Lin Yi, he'd start killing again. Han Xiaopa looked at Lin Yi impressed. Boss was really something. Even the vice president, a sky-class early-phase peak, was here. Didn't he just leave obediently without a word? Boss wasn't just strong. His wits were unparalleled as well. The matter was over. Han Xiaopa thought about it carefully and understood why Lin Yi was so fearless. This was the cultivators' market, and the people from the Cultivators Trade Association didn't dare to openly go against them. They were in the wrong, and if they were to go against Lin Yi, it would be the same as letting other cultivators see them as a joke. It would also chill the hearts of these cultivators, who would trust the Cultivators Trade Association in the future. And so, no matter how sullen the vice president felt, he had no choice but to place justice before family. Yang Qiqi, on the other hand, was in a mess. Lin Yi was so scary, a violent maniac. He'd take someone's life at the slightest provocation. Would he kill her if she really took the blue crystal? And so, Yang Qiqi retreated a little. After all, the person in front of her was just too strong. She wasn't his match at all, and Lin Yi could fight people above his level. That made her feel even more unreachable. But Qiqi thought of little Jio's sickness. She knew that if she didn't trade the treasures back, little Jio's sickness would only worsen. His life might even be in danger. She could only grit her teeth and hold on. No matter how hard, no matter how dangerous, she had to do it. She had to get the blue crystal back. Otherwise, this trip would be a waste. Wasn't the Ice Palace test dangerous? Didn't she still go there? And so, young Chi-Chi thought about it and followed Lin Yi. Wait for me. Lin Yi looked at Chi-Chi, but didn't stop her, allowing her to follow him. Lin Yi didn't know how he felt about young Chi-Chi. She was a pretty girl, but she had too little experience in society. She often bit the hand that fed her. If it weren't for the fact that Lin Yi had interacted with her so many times, Lin Yi really wouldn't bother with her. Chapter 2478. But now that Chi-Chi had given him a blue crystal that Lin Yi desperately needed, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't chase her away. He let her walk beside him. After entering the cultivator's market, not long after, the atmosphere became lively. There were many cultivators setting up stalls at the roadside. There were all sorts of medicinal pills, martial techniques, natural treasures, and many other good things on display. Of course, most of the things that cultivators took out to exchange were things that were useless to them, but they were trash to them. In the hands of others, they might be peerless treasures. Therefore, no one would sell things that they did not need cheaply. They would hold them in their hands and wait to exchange for the things that were most suitable for them and what they needed the most. Therefore, although there were a lot of stalls and a lot of things, there weren't many who could actually make a deal. Everyone was just watching and waiting. Many people had participated in the cultivators' market square many times, but they hadn't found what they needed. Still, it was very safe to set up stalls here. They didn't have to worry about people forcing them to buy or sell. After all, the disciples of the law enforcement hall weren't just there for show. Even if they did meet a sky class, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. It was just that sky class wouldn't be interested in their things. There was a remote courtyard in the cultivators' market. This was the temporary office of the cultivators' market, and outsiders weren't allowed to enter. The heaven-rank vice president from before was currently sitting on a wooden armchair with a gloomy expression. In front of him was a skinny man who was trembling with fear. "What's going on?" the vice guild leader asked as he glanced at his disciple in name. Although the three of them were only his in-name disciples, they had been following him around the cultivators' market all these years. Even if they didn't make any contributions, they still put in a lot of effort. Moreover, the three of them were very perceptive and would always let him, their master, have the first look at the good stuff they extorted. Hence, the vice president of the Heaven Division had a lot of affection for them. Two of them dying out of the blue naturally put him in a bad mood. "Sure, Fu. I didn't know that kid was that cocky, killing big brother and second brother." The skinny man's face was bitter, filled with anger and sadness. "It's not just arrogant. Earth class mid-stage peak, jumping levels to injure an Earth class late stage. Earth class peak late stage master. What kind of concept is this?" The vice president shook his head and said, "Your two brothers aren't in any life-threatening danger. I've already used medicinal pills to save them. However, it's impossible for me to retain my previous strength. Even if I come back to life, I'll be an ordinary person, and I'll lose all my strength." Sigh. The skinny man sighed helplessly. However, his big brother and second brother were able to keep their lives. This was the best result for now. "All right, I'll ask you what happened. Don't talk nonsense. What exactly happened?" The skinny man's words had been vague and unclear, so the vice leader still hadn't figured out why the two guards had attacked him. All he knew was that he was trying to get revenge for the skinny guy. The skinny guy didn't dare hide anything, either. He told the vice leader about how he failed to get Chi-Chi's blue crystal, and how he didn't want to give up. He revealed the attire of Lin Yi and the others to Big Brother and Second Brother, so that they could cause trouble for Lin Yi and the others and retrieve the blue crystal. Blue crystal? The vice president's expression couldn't help but change after hearing this. Although the blue crystal wasn't very useful to him, it was still a rare treasure. After a moment of silence, the vice leader said, "Don't worry, I'll get revenge for you." "Thank you, master." The skinny man was overjoyed and quickly thanked him. Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Chi-Chi walked around the stalls. They didn't stop because Lin Yi didn't need the items on the stalls. Most of them were things he had seen in the hidden treasury of House Han. They couldn't be considered rare treasures. In fact, it was hard for these low-level practitioners to take out anything good. Xiaoka came today as well, but she wasn't here to trade. She wanted to see if there was anything valuable to take back. Although Lin Yi had helped the orphanage get a lot of money, the orphanage was expanding and there were more and more children. They couldn't just rely on Lin Yi and Fatty Lai's help. Although Lin Yi said that he didn't want anything from her, Xiaoka still felt that she couldn't owe Lin Yi too much. If she owed him too much, she wouldn't be able to explain herself. If Lin Yi really wanted her to repay him, how would she repay him? So Xiaoka wanted to be independent. She wouldn't let go of a market like this where she could get good stuff. Xiaoka's eyes scanned the crowd in the stalls, looking for her prey. Suddenly, her eyes lit up with excitement and surprise. She saw him again. It really was him. He came to the cultivators' market too. Xiaoka was shocked and overjoyed. This was the male thief she loved the most in her heart. It had been a long time since she saw him, and she was a little disappointed. She was happy to see him again. But Xiaoka saw Han Xiaopa and Yang Qiqi beside him. She didn't know what they were doing, but they weren't the female thief Song Lingshan and Chun Yutian who followed her in the tomb. Although they had their faces covered, Xiaoka could still tell them apart from the way they dressed. And so, Xiaoka hesitated and didn't call out to Lin Yi. She didn't know why Lin Yi was here, and she didn't want to disturb Lin Yi and ruin his plans. But she didn't want to lose this chance to interact with Lin Yi. She could only look at Lin Yi and the others from afar, waiting for the right opportunity. Qiqi was looking for a very simple thing, something to maintain little Jio's condition. Just like Lin Yi and Han Xiaopa, she only needed a glance at the stalls to know what they were selling. Seeing that Lin Yi was almost done looking at the stalls, Lin Yi was a little disappointed. He didn't see the colored steel he'd been expecting. He turned to Han Xiaopa, pure yellow jade. Is there nothing? Boss, that shouldn't be the case. The news I got was that there really is pure yellow jade being sold in the cultivators' market. Han Xiaopa said, but if it's not in the hands of these cultivators, then it might be in the hands of the Cultivators Trading Association. They'll be auctioning it later, and we'll know when we go take a look. Auction? Were they going to use cash to bid? Or? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 2479. Yes, the association usually accepts cash. They're an anomaly in the world of practitioners. Their goal is to earn money, Han Xiaopa said. Han Xiaopa said, of course, this is the lowest level cultivators market. As for the higher level cultivators market, I'm not sure if it's based on bartering or money. Because my strength level is too low, I've never participated. Cash is fine. Lin Yi nodded. If they were to trade items, Lin Yi wouldn't have an advantage. Other than the turtle spit ice crystal, which he didn't know what to do, Lin Yi only had a few types of pills left. Qiqi, who was behind Lin Yi, let out a small gasp and stopped in her tracks. Lin Yi, on the other hand, turned around to see Qiqi walking quickly to a stall, her eyes fixed on the only bottle there. Yang Qiqi, on the other hand, didn't kneel down immediately. She looked at the watch on her wrist and then at the bottle on the ground, her eyes filled with joy. Lin Yi looked at Qiqi, a little surprised. The watch on her wrist was probably some kind of technological product, helping Qiqi identify treasures. Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't ask Qiqi what it was. Lin Yi wasn't interested in that right now. Excuse me, this is... Qiqi squatted down and pointed at the only bottle on the stall. Lin Yi turned his head to look at the stall owner, and his eyes narrowed. This person was actually a Sky-class early-phase master. It wasn't that there weren't high-level practitioners setting up stalls here, but the fact that there were Sky-class practitioners setting up stalls here personally surprised Lin Yi. Moreover, the heaven-rank cultivator was masked. It was obvious that he didn't want others to know his identity. This also proved how precious the small bottle he brought was. Since you don't know what it is, you can't afford the price. Let's go. The Sky-class looked at Qiqi and closed his eyes. He looked as if he didn't want to pay any attention to him. Qiqi didn't expect this person to be this hard to talk to, but for Lil Nine's sake, she decided to speak softly. Senior, may I ask if this is something from an Earth Element Sky class spirit beast? Oh, you know about it? The Sky class opened his eyes again and stared at Chi-Chi. You actually know that this is the blood of an Earth Element Sky class? Chi-Chi couldn't explain how she knew. She could only nod. Senpai, I don't know. I want to exchange for this. What do you need? Since you can tell what this thing is, I won't hide it from you. The Heaven Rank Cultivator said directly, what I need is something from a Heaven Rank Water Spirit Beast. Young Chi-Chi paused. She didn't think that this was what the Sky class wanted. She didn't have it then. She asked subconsciously, can I have other precious things? For example, the blue crystal? Blue crystal? The Heaven Rank Cultivator was stunned for a moment before he shook his head and said, the blue crystal is precious, but I don't need it. I don't need it. If you give me the blue crystal, I'll have to exchange it with someone else. It's much easier to exchange it with this thing of mine. But the blue crystal is priceless as well. Chi-Chi said, unwilling to give up. Lin frowned. Did this Chi-Chi have more blue crystals? Or was he eyeing his blue crystal? At the thought, Lin looked at Chi-Chi deeply. This girl was most likely following him for the blue crystal, wasn't she? It's true that the blue crystal is priceless, but you know that I'm a Sky class and a water practitioner at that. I need something from a Sky class water class spirit beast to modify my weapon, the Heaven Rank Cultivator said, and perhaps there are other Sky class practitioners like me who also have something from a Sky class spirit beast. It's just that it doesn't suit their practitioner's arts, and they're waiting to exchange it. On the other hand, I'm looking for people like that. This guy's talking about modifying weapons. What does he mean? Linny whispered to Han Xiaopa as the Heaven class was explaining to Chi-Chi. Oh, boss, you don't know? Han Xiaopa paused and explained, there are no more blacksmiths in the world of practitioners now. As for the magic weapons used by Heaven rank powerhouses, they are all passed down from the past, but every magic weapon has its own attribute. With that, Han Xiaopa told Lin about the effects of using things from Sky-class spirit beasts to modify the attributes of his weapons. So that's how it is. Lin nodded. He finally knew what the turtle spit ice crystal was for. The Sky-class turtle was a water-class spirit beast, and this turtle spit ice crystal should be something from a Sky-class spirit beast. It was used to modify weapons, and it was exactly what this Sky-class practitioner needed. Of course, Lin didn't take it out to trade. This thing wasn't useful to Lin right now, and the Sky-class practitioner's things were useless to Lin as well. Lin wouldn't trade it for Chi-Chi's needs. Lin still wanted to see if there was anything he needed. Naturally, he wouldn't trade the turtle spit ice crystal so easily. One could see that as precious as the blood of Sky-class practitioner was, not many people really needed it. Other than Chi-Chi, no one else wanted it. So even if Lin were to trade with him, it'd be hard for him to trade what he got back. Plus, Chi-Chi wouldn't be able to refuse him even if he did trade it back. But think about it. Someone who has the water element Sky class you need might not necessarily need the blood of an earth element Sky class. Otherwise, you'd have traded it out a long time ago, wouldn't you? Chi-Chi didn't want to give up so easily. She was trying to convince Lin. According to Chi-Chi's reliable sources, this Sky-class practitioner had been going to all sorts of practitioners' markets for the past 2 years, but to no avail. That was why Chi-Chi didn't want to give up so easily. The Sky-class lowered his head, evidently spot on by Chi-Chi's words. Indeed, as precious as the thing in his hand was, this person didn't need it. Even someone with something from a Sky-class spirit beast might not be willing to trade it with him. But there might be a lot of people who need it. Even if the Sky class doesn't need it, his disciples and brothers would need it, right? Maybe you'll get another chance, Chi-Chi said. Chapter 2480. I see. The Sky class seemed to have something in mind after hearing Chi-Chi's words. It was no wonder, though. He'd been trading for it for a long time without getting anything out. Of course, it was because he only wanted something from a water element Sky class, but it was also because other people didn't need something from an earth element Sky class. Otherwise, if someone really needed it, they would have done everything they could to find out about a water element Sky class. So, you agree to the trade? Chi-Chi asked, a little excited. Let me think about it. The heaven-rank cultivator hesitated for a moment before saying, "This matter is of great importance. Go take a look somewhere else first, and come find me later." "All right, think about it." Chi-Chi was overjoyed. The Sky Class didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. There was hope if he wanted to think about it. With that, Chi-Chi stood up and followed Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa. Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa didn't say it out loud, but they both knew what Chi-Chi was thinking. In fact, Chi-Chi was hesitating as well. How was she going to deal with Lin Yi? How was she going to get the crystal back from Lin Yi? The corner of his eyes caught Chi-Chi's shifty gaze, and he felt a little helpless. This cool girl really lacked social experience, wasn't she? Her intentions were written all over her face. Wasn't she afraid that he'd be on guard against her? Chi-Chi couldn't think of a good way to get the crystal back from Lin Yi. Since she couldn't trick him, she'd have to steal it. Chi-Chi hesitated for a long time, and as if she'd made a big decision, she suddenly walked over and grabbed Lin Yi's arm. She spoke to Lin Yi in a sweet voice. "Thank you for your help earlier, hero. Otherwise, I really would have been bullied by that scrawny guy." Lin Yi almost laughed out loud at Chi-Chi's sudden action. This cool chick was really indescribable. Although the voice was very sweet, Lin Yi could clearly hear the resistance and unwillingness in it, as well as a faint trace of fear. The arm that was holding him was also trembling. Come to think of it, this cool girl had never seduced a man before. Today, in order to steal the blue crystal, this was the first time. However, her acting skills were too bad. Lin Yi saw through her plot at a glance. If it was someone else, he didn't know. Lin Yi had gotten rid of her a long time ago, but this was young Chi-Chi, someone who had a lot of interactions with Lin Yi. Lin Yi's feelings towards her were a mix of love and hate. Sometimes he thought she was a cute, cool girl, and other times he thought she was a bitch who repaid kindness with enmity. Looking at Chi-Chi's distant figure, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel playful. He wanted to prank Chi-Chi a little, and so he reached out his hand. He put an arm around Chi-Chi's shoulder and smiled. "Haha, you're too polite. This is what chivalrous people like us should do." Ah, Chi-Chi shivered. She didn't expect Lin Yi to be this daring, hugging her. But Chi-Chi couldn't resist. She was the one who seduced Lin Yi first, and Lin Yi was just going with the flow. Wouldn't everything be for nothing if she resisted? Chi-Chi felt that it was humiliating to seduce Lin Yi, but when she thought about it, she didn't mind sacrificing a little. For little Jiao, a little sacrifice was nothing. It wasn't real anyway. He'd kill Lin Yi after he achieved his goal. This guy wasn't a good person. Anyway, he was a big bully. What's wrong? Lin Yi could see Chi-Chi's nervousness, but pretended like he didn't know. It's nothing. Chi-Chi gritted her teeth as she moved her body closer to Lin Yi's side, her other hand reaching out. With her other hand, she was ready to reach into Lin Yi's backpack and steal the blue crystal. Of course, Chi-Chi wasn't a master thief, and it would be hard for her to steal something from Lin Yi's backpack. If Lin Yi was alerted, that would be troublesome. All she could do now was compromise. Haha, as long as it's nothing. Lin Yi took Chi-Chi's hand and started groping from her armpit to her chest. Chi-Chi's body froze as she glared at Lin Yi. She was about to go berserk and fight Lin Yi, but Lin Yi didn't seem to notice her stare. He looked in another direction. It wasn't that Lin Yi was faking it. Lin Yi suddenly felt a resentful gaze on him. Lin Yi wanted to act like he didn't know anything. But Lin Yi looked in the direction of the resentful gaze and saw someone who shocked him. You Xiaoka? Why was she here? Lin Yi paused. Xiaoka was surprised to see Lin Yi looking in her direction. Did he notice her? She was wearing a mask, wasn't she? The male thief was wearing a mask, so naturally Xiaoka would recognize him. But could he recognize her now? Was it because Lin Yi noticed that she was looking at him, or did Lin Yi recognize her? Xiaoka wasn't sure, but when Lin Yi turned his head again, she felt a little dejected, so he didn't recognize her. Lin Yi, of course, recognized Xiaoka. He smiled bitterly in his heart, thinking that no one would recognize the mask he took out casually. He didn't expect Xiaoka to be here as well. What a coincidence. But Lin Yi didn't want to reveal his identity, so he wore the mask. He didn't want people to know that he was buying large amounts of yellow jade blue crystal, and colored steel. Plus, Lin had quite a grudge with the Cultivator Trading Association. Although the vice chairman didn't look like he wanted to pursue the matter, Lin could see the ruthlessness in his eyes. If there was a chance to backstab him, he wouldn't let it go. So at this time, being too close to Xiaoka wasn't a good thing. He might even drag her down with him. Plus, Lin could roughly guess Xiaoka's purpose for coming here. Lin didn't believe that Xiaoka was here to trade. This greedy girl used all her valuables to subsidize the orphanage. Where'd she get the money to trade in the market? Her purpose here was most likely to steal and see if there was a chance to make a fortune. This way, it would be even harder for Lin to recognize her. If Xiaoka stole something, he would be implicated as well. As for Yang Qiqi and Han Xiaopa, there was nothing he could do. They were involved, and they couldn't run away even if they wanted to. Lin could only bring them along. Chapter 2481. When Lin turned his head, Qiqi was in a dilemma. Should she break free from Lin Yi's clutches and leave, or should she endure it? After weighing the pros and cons, Qiqi decided to endure it. She had to for Lil 9, but in her heart, she was cursing Lin Yi 1,000 times, wishing that Lin Yi would step on a rock and fall to his death. What's wrong? Lin Yi turned his head to Qiqi, pinching her chest a couple of times. Ah! Qiqi gasped, almost going crazy. She held it in. It's nothing. There's a lot of people here. It's not good. Oh, it's nothing. Lin Yi said nonchalantly, his actions getting more and more reckless. Han Xiaopa's face was full of question marks. Lin Yi wasn't usually this lecherous. He'd interacted with Lin Yi a lot already, and while there were plenty of beauties around him, Lin Yi would never do something this perverted. Could it be revenge? Han Xiaopa understood instantly. He wasn't an idiot. Qiqi had wanted to trade the blue crystal with a sky class practitioner for the blood of an earth elemental sky class. But where would she have the crystal? Wasn't it in Lin Yi's hands? With that, everyone knew what she was planning. She'd come to seduce Lin Yi to get the blue crystal back from Lin Yi, and Lin Yi had probably figured out Qiqi's intentions as well. Han Xiaopa shook his head and smiled coldly inwardly. This girl had a great body, but she was underestimating Boss Lin Yi too much. Boss Lin Yi had a lot of women around him, and there was no way she could compare to Yushu in terms of body. How about I go to your room tonight? Qiqi asked. Haha, sure, but we'll talk about tonight. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't let go of a good opportunity like this. Lin Yi wasn't a pervert, but he was a normal person, too. Qiqi often bit the hand that fed her, and Lin Yi didn't mind teaching her a lesson. Qiqi was helpless. She could only let Lin Yi touch her. She wanted to kill Lin Yi right now, but she couldn't hide the shyness in her eyes, looking as if she was enjoying it. It was as tragic as one could imagine. After walking around and making sure that there wasn't anything he needed, Lin Yi lost interest. Qiqi, on the other hand, was panicking. Being teased by Lin Yi like this wasn't a good thing. Not only was she pissed off, but she was also letting down her little bro, but there was nothing she could do. All she could do was kill Lin Yi after the deed was done. But thinking back to how strong Lin Yi was, Qiqi didn't think that she was a match for him at all. If she were a match for Lin Yi, she wouldn't have to be bullied by that skinny guy. She was worried about losing him. Yang Qiqi had no choice but to endure it. Xiaopa, when's the auction? Lin Yi asked. According to the usual schedule. Tomorrow, it should be. There's a free hotel for people to stay in at night. Han Xiaopa said. Boss, do you have anything you want to auction? We can put it up for auction. Yes. The pills Lin Yi had weren't very useful to Lin Yi, and Lin Yi didn't have the time to set up a stall here to trade with others. Exchanging it for money was the simplest way. And so, Lin Yi said, then we'll put it up for auction first. All right. Han Xiaopa nodded and volunteered to lead the way. He knew more about the market than Lin Yi. Qiqi, on the other hand, was overjoyed. She wondered if she'd have a chance to steal the blue crystal when Lin Yi put it up for auction. Han Xiaopa brought Lin Yi away from the market and came to a secluded courtyard. At the entrance of the courtyard, there were law enforcement disciples patrolling the area. Who are you? What are you doing? This is the office of the Cultivator Trade Association. If there's nothing else, please leave. One of the disciples said to Lin Yi's group. Oh, we're here to put it up for auction. How do we go through the procedures? Han Xiaopa knew a lot about the cultivator market, but the hidden house Han didn't do business before. In order not to attract attention, they wouldn't come here to put it up for auction. So, Han Xiaopa only knew the general situation. Of course, you can put up for auction. Come with me. The disciple nodded. It wasn't that there weren't any cultivators who came here to auction things, but there weren't many. Most cultivators preferred to set up stalls outside in the form of free trade. In this way, they could directly barter and see if there was anything they needed. However, the only thing they could get from the auction was money. But just because there were few didn't mean there weren't any. For example, the people from the hidden house, you would often put up some pills for auction. After all, hidden houses needed a lot of money to operate. After entering the side courtyard, Lin Yi's group was led to a room. There was a man dressed like an ancient pawnshop who was arranging something. When he saw the law enforcement disciple bring people in, he asked directly, "Do you have something to put up for auction?" Here, Lin Yi didn't see the vice president of Heaven's stage. A vice president should be in charge here. He couldn't do these small things by himself. But this way, Lin Yi was relieved. He was afraid that the vice president would abuse his power for personal revenge and tamper with the auction price. Yes, I have some pills to put up for auction. Lin Yi nodded. As he said that, he took the backpack behind him, opened it, and placed several small bottles in front of the pawnshop man. Pills. The pawnshop man was surprised when he saw the things Lin Yi took out. Are you from the hidden house, you? No. Lin Yi shook his head. Do you need to ask for the identity of the auctioneer when you auction here? That's not it. The pawnshop man shook his head embarrassedly and said, It's just that only the people from the hidden house you use to auction pills. You know that this cultivator's market is a small scale. The Heavenly Elixir sect absolutely doesn't want it, so we only have one source of pills before. Suddenly, someone came to auction pills. I subconsciously thought that you were also from the hidden house, you. Then what are the rules of the auction? Asked Lin Yi. Auction. According to the rules, we will take 20% of the total transaction price of the auction item. So, you have to consider this factor when you set the price. Don't lose money, said the pawnshop man. Chapter 24:82. But these elixirs of yours, small chi gathering pill, small circulation pill, meridian unblocking pill, and some spirit gathering pills, have been auctioned countless times. Because they were all supplied by the hidden house of you. The starting price is the same every time, and the final transaction price is about the same. There won't be much fluctuation. So, if you feel that you're losing money, you can choose to give up. The reason why the pawnbroker said so much was that he was afraid that the cost of Lin Yi's alchemy would be too high, and the final transaction price would be a loss. What is the general starting price and final transaction price? Lin Yi asked. There's a record here. I'll find it for you to see. The pawnbroker skillfully took out a list from a pile of documents and handed it to Lin Yi. Yang Chi-Chi, on the other hand, was quite surprised. Lin Yi had brought out so many pills to auction. He really was a man of goods. If it weren't for the fact that she really needed the blue crystal for little Joe's treatment, she would have asked for it all back. Lin Yi didn't have the time to guess Yang Chi-Chi's thoughts. He took the list from the pawnbroker and looked at it carefully. However, he sucked in a cold breath when he saw it. Seeing Lin Yi's subconscious shock, the pawnbroker smiled and said, The hidden house of you produces elixirs in bulk. Their price naturally has an advantage. If you don't think it's worth it, don't sell it. He was obviously doing it on purpose. The price on the list was too low in Lin Yi's eyes. However, he misunderstood. Lin Yi looked at the price on the list and sighed secretly. The profit of this elixir business was really huge. No wonder the hidden house of you didn't care about the medical business in the secular world. It couldn't be compared with this. Here, the transaction price of elixir was more than 10 million. It was a sky-high price. The 20 elixirs that Lin Yi brought were sold for more than 200 million. Where else could he find such a profitable business? Although the materials needed for these elixirs were precious, it was at most a few million. If Lin he had the time, he could ask Old Man Lin to plant some at home. It was just that he didn't have the time, so he asked for it from the Yu family. After all, the ingredients for these elixirs were not particularly rare. The cost of first-grade and second-grade elixirs was actually not high. The only good thing about it was that it was often unsuccessful. However, this price was still lower than the transaction value of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Could it be that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was worth that much? Lin Yi was surprised that the Kong family would spare no effort to obtain the formula. They had the backing of the hidden Yu family, and they were still concerned about the formula. It was enough to show how precious the formula was. However, Lin Yi did not find anything precious or strange about the formula. This price is fine. No problem. Lin Yi looked at the list. He said directly, "Oh." The pawnbroker was a little shocked, but he didn't ask much and just nodded. "All right, since that's the case, let's do the registration." "All right." Lin Yi nodded. It didn't take long for the procedures to be completed. Lin Yi didn't use his real name, only an auction number. This number would be used to participate in the auction as well, but he'd gotten it earlier than the others. Yang Qiqi wasn't Yu Xiaoka. She had no chance to snatch the blue crystal from Lin Yi's bag in front of everyone. She couldn't find a suitable opportunity, even after Lin Yi put on his bag. She could only give up for now. The group walked out of the courtyard, and Lin Yi noticed that Xiaoka was nearby. She seemed to be looking at a stall not far from them. But Lin Yi could see her eyes drifting over from time to time. He couldn't help but smile bitterly to himself. Yu Xiaoka's feelings were clear to Lin Yi. It was normal for her to be jealous after seeing him touching Yang Qiqi. However, Lin Yi didn't plan on letting Yang Qiqi go so easily. This girl was too irritating, biting the hand that fed her. Lin Yi punished her so that she would remember better in the future. Yang Qiqi saw that she couldn't stop Lin Yi from touching her, so she used her hands to touch Lin Yi. Of course, the main reason she touched Lin Yi was to steal the blue crystal from Lin Yi's backpack. Only with the blue crystal could she trade for the earth element sky, class spirit beast blood. Who was Yu Xiaoka? She knew Yang Qiqi's goal. She was a thief by birth. How could she not see that Yang Qiqi wanted to be a thief? Yu Xiaoka was a little annoyed. Why was this male thief so perverted? Was he smitten by this hot girl in front of him? He didn't even know what she was trying to do. In Yu Xiaoka's impression, this male thief was a very smart man. His intelligence and alertness in the tomb were both extraordinary. Plus, if he wanted to be perverted, he could have done it with herself. It wasn't like she wouldn't let him touch herself. Why would he touch a girl who had bad intentions towards him? It wasn't long before it was time for dinner. Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and Qiqi arrived at the hotel in the market. You had to pay for your food here, but the rooms were free, provided by the Practitioner Trade Association. In fact, this place wasn't open to the public at all. Other than when the practitioners' market was being held, it was always closed. The facilities here were all built for the sake of the market. There weren't many practitioners eating in the restaurant. Since this place was open all days, there was no need for everyone to eat at this time. Plus, most of the practitioners would just buy things and eat in their rooms, not sitting here. Lin Yi randomly ordered a few dishes and sat down. "Did you find what you wanted to trade?" I don't have anything to trade. I'm just here to take a look," Qiqi quickly said. "Huh." Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Qiqi's acting was too bad, and perhaps she was the only one who didn't know that she'd already exposed her true thoughts. Yu Xiaoka was in the restaurant as well. She was panicking. Could this male thief in front of her be an impersonator? Otherwise, the male thief didn't look like this. Could it be that the mask was fake? Seeing Qiqi fumbling around in Lin Yi's backpack, Yu Xiaoka panicked. What if this guy really was a male thief? And so, Xiaoka had no choice. She bought a boxed meal and sat beside Lin Yi's table. The most common food here was the bento box. In fact, these bento boxes were mostly given to the staff of the cultivator market and the law enforcement hall disciples for free. Very few cultivators would buy them. Practitioners weren't poor, so why would they buy a box meal? Someone like you, Xiaoke, who lived frugally, was naturally different. Chapter 2483. Xiaoke's sudden arrival startled Chi-Chi, and she quickly retracted her hand that was rummaging through Lin Yi's backpack. She glared at Xiaoke, annoyed. What was wrong with this person? She didn't recognize them, and there were so many seats around them. Why did she have to sit next to them? Wasn't she just being annoying? But Xiaoke was already sitting next to them, and Chi-Chi couldn't just kick her out, could she? Helplessly, Chi-Chi could only give up and look for other opportunities. Ahem. Xiaoke turned her head to look at Lin Yi and realized that Lin Yi didn't seem to notice her. She coughed twice. Chi-Chi was waiting for Xiaoke to sit down and eat, and she wanted to find a chance to make a move, but Xiaoke suddenly coughed twice, giving her a fright. Her heart almost fell out of her chest, and she quickly retracted her hand. Lin Yi turned to Xiaoke helplessly, but Lin Yi didn't say anything after some hesitation. He knew that Xiaoke might have noticed something, but Lin Yi couldn't say anything in front of Chi-Chi. At that moment, Chi-Chi's phone rang. She took it out and looked at the caller ID. She quickly stood up and said to Lin Yi, "Young warrior, I'll go take this. Wait for me." With that, Chi-Chi walked quickly to a corner of the restaurant and carefully picked up the phone. With Chi-Chi gone, Xiaoke had some space to interact with Lin Yi. "Ha, it's me." Xiaoke lowered her voice and hinted to Lin, "It's me." Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't want to acknowledge Xiaoke at first because he didn't want to drag her into this. It wasn't that he was avoiding her, but now that Xiaoke had taken the initiative, Lin Yi couldn't act like he didn't know her anymore. "Flying Sparrow, it's been a while," Lin Yi said. Chapter 2484. The elixir had been put up for auction, and Lin Yi's bottle was still with him. Lin Yi wouldn't be stupid enough to put it in his backpack as well. What if Chi-Chi decided to steal it too? Lin Yi would be in big trouble. After doing all that, Lin Yi sat cross-legged on his bed, channeling the second stage of the art of dragon mastery as he waited for Chi-Chi's arrival. He guessed that Chi-Chi wouldn't be able to resist coming to his room soon, looking for a chance to steal the blue crystal. As expected, Lin Yi heard a knock on the door not long after. "Who is it?" Lin Yi said with a smile as he walked over. "It's me." Chi-Chi tried to make her voice sound seductive. She didn't know how to seduce men, but she'd seen it in dramas before. It wasn't too strenuous for her to do it now, but it was a little embarrassing. Fortunately, her face was covered, and no one could see her face. Lin Yi opened the door and let Chi-Chi in. Chi-Chi closed the door after entering before turning to Lin Yi. "Young warrior, thank you so much for helping out today. I'd like to thank you in advance." Lin Yi was speechless. Which TV show did she see this way of speaking? But Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to tease her anymore. He only nodded. "It's nothing." Lin Yi's attitude towards her suddenly became a little cold, and Chi-Chi's heart jumped. Why did Lin Yi not like her anymore? Wasn't he touching her chest like a pervert before? Why was he so indifferent when she threw herself in his arms? This change made Chi-Chi's heart skip a beat. She didn't know what made Lin Yi like this, but since she was already here, she couldn't just give up. She had to get the blue crystal back. She gritted her teeth and hugged Lin Yi, falling into Lin Yi's embrace, but Chi-Chi was thinking to herself, "For little Jio's illness, I endured, but today's humiliation, I will return it tenfold. Just you wait. When I become powerful, the first thing I will take is your life." Lin Yi paused at Chi-Chi's sudden action, but understood the reason immediately. It was most likely because of his attitude. This conjecture, Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although Lin Yi had his hands on Chi-Chi earlier, he'd at least shown that he was interested in her. This made it easier for Chi-Chi to get close to him and steal the blue crystal. But if Lin Yi wasn't interested in Chi-Chi, then Chi-Chi wouldn't have the chance to steal the crystal. Lin Yi pushed Chi-Chi away helplessly. He knew that Chi-Chi must be grinding her teeth in anger, but he had to put on a fawning front. This girl's heart was still very strong, but it was also what Lin Yi admired the most. She was the same as Xiaoke, having her own beliefs and stubbornness. Xiaoko was willing to give up a lot for the children in the orphanage, and Chi-Chi was the same. She was willing to sacrifice herself for her friends. And so, Linny really couldn't bear to take advantage of her. At least the current Chi-Chi made Lin-Yi feel that she wasn't that bad, and she wasn't that selfish. It was reasonable for him to steal the blue crystal. Looking at it from another angle, if someone stole his chance to cure Xiao Xiao, Lin-Yi would probably do the same. No rush. I'll go take a shower first. Lin-Yi said this to create a chance for Chi-Chi to steal, letting her steal the blue crystal. Otherwise, with this cool girl's thieving skills, there was no chance of success at all. Lin-Yi was already lax enough, but Xiaoko was different. The blue crystal was already in his hands. But Chi-Chi clearly wasn't an expert in this area. So Lin-Yi went to take a shower and left her in the room to steal. Okay. Chi-Chi heard Lin-Yi's words and was overjoyed. This guy really was a big pervert. He still wanted to take a shower? It was obvious what he would do after a shower. You deserve to lose your things. I'll steal the blue crystal after you take a shower. What a great opportunity. Chi-Chi, naturally, didn't know that Lin-Yi was doing this on purpose. She didn't connect this person in front of her with the Lin-Yi and Ling-Yi from before. Lin-Yi didn't say anything and walked into the bathroom. He locked the door and took off his clothes to take a shower. Chi-Chi heard the sound of water coming from the bathroom and was overjoyed. After a while, she made sure that Lin-Yi was really taking a shower. Chi-Chi walked quickly to Lin-Yi's backpack and started rummaging through it. The blue crystal was in Lin-Yi's backpack. It wasn't hidden, so Chi-Chi saw it the moment she opened the backpack. Chi-Chi's hands were shaking as she carefully and quickly stole the blue crystal from Lin-Yi's backpack. Her heart was racing. She had killed before, but she had no experience in stealing. Chi-Chi carefully put Lin-Yi's backpack back to its original state and took a deep breath. She quickly put the blue crystal in her pocket. She didn't dare show it off in her hands. What if someone saw it and wanted to do something bad again? She'd be in big trouble. With that done, young Chi-Chi carefully made her way to the door. Xiaoko went back to her room and tidied up. She wanted to go to Lin-Yi's room, but she didn't expect to see Chi-Chi sneaking into Lin-Yi's room the moment she opened the door. At the same time, Xiaoko cursed Chi-Chi for being shameless. She really was a disgrace to the thief's sections. She had to sacrifice her body to steal something. What a shame. Xiaoko didn't knock on the door right away. She didn't know what Lin-Yi's goal was, and she was afraid that her appearance would interfere with Lin-Yi's plans. So, she waited in the hallway for Chi-Chi to come out. If Chi-Chi succeeded, she'd help her steal the item. Xiaoko let out a sigh of relief when Chi-Chi opened the door not long after entering the room. She tiptoed out. Xiaoko knew that Lin-Yi had a goal, but she wouldn't be happy if something really happened between Lin-Yi and Chi-Chi. It wasn't that she was stingy, but it was reasonable, especially with a girl like Chi-Chi, who had a bad character. Xiaoko would be even more unhappy. Even if something happened, it should be with someone with high standards like her, right? And Chi-Chi came out not long after entering. Evidently, she didn't have time to do anything. Chapter 2485. Chi-Chi's clothes didn't look like anything had happened, either. Chi-Chi could open the door without making any noise, but closing it from the outside wouldn't be possible. She didn't lock the door, but left Lin-Yi's door ajar as she tiptoed out of the room. But Chi-Chi saw Xiaoko walking towards her the moment she stepped out of the door. She jumped in fright and almost tripped. She didn't dare to look at Xiaoko straight in the eyes and quickly ran back to her room. How could Xiaoko not see the guilt in Chi-Chi's eyes? It seemed that she had stolen something. There was no way Xiaoko would let her take it away so easily. So when Chi-Chi walked past with her head lowered, Xiaoko consciously brushed past her and bumped into her. Chi-Chi felt guilty and wanted to go back to her room as soon as possible. So naturally, she didn't want to talk to Xiaoko. Even if she knew that Xiaoko had bumped into her on purpose, she could only accept it with a guilty conscience. Xiaoko pushed open Lin-Yi's door and walked in, only to find that there was no one there. At the same time, she heard the sound of water coming from the washroom. Xiaoka understood now that Lin Yi was showering, and Chi-Chi must have used this time to steal something. As for why Lin Yi went to shower, that was obvious. Chi-Chi must have seduced Lin Yi and made him shower, and Chi-Chi used this time to steal something. Otherwise, with her skills, she wouldn't have been able to win against Lin Yi at all. At that thought, Xiaoka was even more troubled. The male thief was such a big pervert, taking the bait with just a little seduction, and even going to take a bath like an idiot. If she didn't notice that something was wrong and stole the item back, he'd have lost a lot. Xiaoka thought. Xiaoka sat on the sofa, waiting for Lin Yi to come out after his shower. He suddenly felt expected. What was going to happen between Chi-Chi and Lin Yi in the shower? Now that young Chi-Chi wasn't here, and she was in Lin Yi's room, would something happen between her and Lin Yi? With that thought, Xiaoka got nervous. If Lin Yi wanted to push her down, would she agree or not? Or agree? Just when Xiaoka was panicking, the washroom door opened and Lin Yi walked out wearing nightgown. He wasn't wearing the male thief mask, but the 1,000 silk mask that the Heaven-class spider gave him. In the washroom, Lin Yi had heard the sound of Chi-Chi leaving. Chi-Chi had made it very quiet, but how could she hide it from an Earth-class mid-phase peak like Lin Yi? Lin Yi also knew that Xiaoka had come in. This was also the reason why Lin Yi didn't come out after showering. He recognized Xiaoka's footsteps and knew that she was safe in her room. As for not wearing the mask, Lin Yi was too lazy to wear it, and Xiaoka had tried to take it off many times, so he decided that he might as well take it off himself. He still had the 1,000 silk mask on, so Lin Yi wasn't worried that Xiaoka would recognize him. "Xiaoka, you're here? Is she gone already?" Lin Yi wiped his hair with a towel as he looked at Xiaoka on the sofa and asked calmly, "Huh, you knew she was gone?" Xiaoka paused for a second before answering. She realized that Lin Yi wasn't wearing the mask this time, and she was surprised and happy. She even forgot about Chi-Chi and stood up. "Male thief, is this your real face? You're finally willing to take off your mask in front of me. I'm so happy." "Hi, Ann." Lin Yi smiled. "How is it? Are you disappointed?" With the 1,000 silk mask on his face, Lin Yi looked like a normal person. He didn't have the handsomeness he used to have, and he gave off the feeling that you wouldn't be able to find him in a crowd. This was the effect that the 1,000 silk mask was supposed to have. If it was too obvious, then the mask would be a failure. "Nope." Xiaoka shook her head heavily. "What you look like isn't important. What I like is the person who protected me carefully in the tomb. Plus, your looks aren't that outstanding, but in my eyes, you're perfect." Lin Yi paused. He didn't think that Xiaoka would reveal her feelings so boldly again. He didn't know how to reply to this. "I'll go take a shower." Although that annoying girl left, there's still me, Xiaoka said to Lin Yi bravely. "That? Xiaoka, it's okay. You misunderstood." Lin Yi jumped. He was a little moved, but how could he do anything with Xiaoka in this place? He quickly waved his hand to stop her. "I suggested taking a shower. The goal was to create a chance for her to steal the blue crystal." You let her steal it on purpose?" Xiaoka's eyes widened in shock, not understanding why Lin Yi would do this. "Xiaoka, sit down first. I'll tell you the details." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Actually, she's a pitiful person. She had her own persistence, willing to compromise. Oh, Xiaoka wasn't too happy hearing Lin Yi's high evaluation of Yang Chi-Chi, but she still sat down obediently. "Actually, the truth is like this. The thing she stole was hers, and I just took it from someone else's hands." With that, Lin Yi told Xiaoka about what happened at the practitioner's market. So that's how it is. Xiaoka realized after listening to Lin Yi's story, it really was Yang Chi-Chi's. But Xiaoka was still a little unsatisfied. Although it was hers, she was useless, and someone stole it. You stole it from the person who stole it, so it's yours. What right does she have to steal it back? That's what I thought before. I thought that she was biting the hand that fed her. I helped her get back a small chi-gathering pill, so she should be satisfied. Otherwise, she wouldn't get anything. Lin Yi nodded. So, when she threw herself at me, I used that as an excuse to tease her. But later in the restaurant, I heard a phone call from her, and I changed my mind. Lin Yi then told Xiaoka about the phone call. Xiaoka couldn't help but fall silent. Indeed, if what Linny said was true, then Yang Qiqi and herself were quite similar in some aspects. Chapter 2486. Xiaoka was doing it for the children in the orphanage, and Qiqi was doing it for her sick family or friends. I see. But I took back what she stole. Xiaoka helplessly took out the blue crystal and gave it to Lin Yi. Ah! Lin Yi froze as he looked at the crystal in Xiaoka's palm. He didn't think that Xiaoka would take it back. Of course, to Xiaoka, it was as easy as lifting a finger. Yang Qiqi took a while to calm herself down after getting back to her room. She patted her chest and carefully put her hand in her pocket, wanting to take out the blue crystal for a look. But the moment she put her hand in her pocket, her face froze. Where was the blue crystal? The blue crystal was gone. Qiqi rummaged through her pockets once more, but it was empty. There was nothing there at all. Qiqi was completely stupefied. Where did the blue crystal go? She'd stolen it and put it in her pocket, and they'd been so close. There was no way she'd lost it, right? Qiqi suddenly remembered someone, and that was Xiaoka. She'd only met Xiaoka recently, and when she came out of Lin Yi's room, they brushed past each other, and Xiaoka even bumped into her. Could she have stolen the blue crystal at that time? Qiqi's eyes flashed with anger at the thought. She was very angry. Why was it always Xiaoka who ruined her plans? She stormed out of the room and went straight to Lin Yi's room. She remembered what happened before. She remembered that Xiaoka went into Lin Yi's room. He heard the footsteps in the hallway, and he put on the male thief's mask. Coming to Lin Yi's room, Qiqi saw that Lin Yi's door wasn't locked, so she pushed the door open and walked in. Seeing Xiaoka holding her blue crystal in front of Lin Yi like it was a treasure, Yang Qiqi was furious. In actuality, she had misunderstood Xiaoka. Xiaoka didn't offer anything, but she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was kind enough to help Lin Yi get the blue crystal back, but it was Lin Yi who let Yang Qiqi steal it. You're such a wicked girl. You stole my blue crystal. Are you going to use it to please this big bully? Qiqi pointed at Xiaoka and said angrily. Xiaoka had been sympathizing with Qiqi and was ready to send the blue crystal back, but Qiqi started scolding her the moment she walked in. Not to mention, Qiqi was calling the perfect man in her heart a bully. How could she not be angry? What a joke. This blue crystal clearly belonged to the man. He stole it from that skinny guy. How did it become yours? Xiaoka didn't back down. Aren't you ashamed to come here and cause a ruckus? Qiqi had an idea. That's right. Even if he took it from that skinny guy, I took it from him. So it's mine now. Oh, that's right. You said it yourself. You took it. So it's yours now. I stole it from you. So it's mine now. Xiaoka said matter-of-factly. So what are you yelling for? Aren't you ashamed of selling your body? You. Qiqi was speechless. She was no match for Xiaoka when it came to defense and deceit. Xiaoka used to be at the bottom of society, dealing with gangsters all the time. Yang Qiqi was no match for her. What about me? What about you? You have nothing to say now? Xiaoka humphed. You tricked me into taking a bath, and you left with the blue crystal. Do you think I'm an idiot? Qiqi was just about to say the word when she remembered Xiaoka's words. She felt wronged and started crying. Whoa, you're all bullying me. Qiqi wiped her tears. She felt wronged as she ran out the door, back to her room. Xiaoka and Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked at each other. The reason why Lin Yi didn't stop Xiaoka from making things difficult for Qiqi was because he wanted to teach her a lesson. He was ready to return the blue crystal to her, but it was only because she needed to save a patient. He was still a little pissed off that she was biting the hand that fed her. This was why he didn't stop Xiaoka, but he didn't think that Qiqi would be this weak. Running away after a few words from Xiaoka? Did she feel wronged? Lin Yi shook his head. She was still lacking in social experience. Male thief, I'm sorry. I didn't think I'd scare her away. Xiaoka said, embarrassed after some hesitation. It's fine. We'll talk about it later. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Okay. Xiaoka let out a breath of relief when she saw that Lin Yi didn't blame her. Right. Xiaoka, why did you come to the cultivators market? It seems like you have to spend a lot of money to participate in the cultivators market, right? Where did you get the invitation? Lin Yi asked. I stole it. Xiaoka said embarrassedly. I was thinking of coming here to see if I could get some money back. Ha, okay, I understand. Lin Yi said, I'll deal with it for you tomorrow. Okay. Xiaoka nodded happily. All of a sudden, Lin Yi's phone rang. Lin Yi looked at the call. It was Meng Yao, but he didn't want to answer it in front of Xiaoka. So Lin Yi was hesitated. Should he hang up or pick it up? But Xiaoka seemed to have noticed Lin Yi's inconvenience and smiled. You answer the phone first. I'll go back to my room. Xiaoka let out a breath of relief when she knew that Lin Yi wasn't looking for Chi-Chi. At the same time, she knew that Lin Yi wouldn't be doing anything with her. She stood up and left the room, helping Lin Yi hang up the door before returning to her own room. Lin Yi, on the other hand, picked up the phone. Hello? I'm Lin. Lin Yi, it's me. Meng Yao's voice came from the phone. Yao, what's wrong? What happened? Lin Yi asked worriedly. Under normal circumstances, Meng Yao wouldn't call Lin Yi when he was out. She didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. Pin Liang came back all of a sudden today. Meng Yao was speechless at the name. She didn't think that Pin Liang would come to Donghai Industry University, not to mention that he was harassing her on the first day. Chapter 2487. Pin Yang? Why is he back? Lin Yi paused. Did he cause you trouble? Man, he came looking for me as soon as he came to school. Meng Yao said, troubled. Plus, I don't know where he learned some kung fu from, but it's really powerful. Oh, he learned kung fu? Lin Yi was surprised. Yeah, it's like this. Meng Yao told Lin Yi everything that happened today in detail. Pin Liang and Xiaofu stayed on Mount Mingri for a while, and Pin Liang was accepted as an in-name disciple by the head of the sect, Pure Yang Sky Master. He was given a treasure, the mid-tier golden cicada underwear. This mid-tier golden cicada underwear could defend against any attack from a Master Under Sky class. It was a super treasure. Pin Yang and Xiaofu didn't have good grades, but they paid to go to the joint school. They were still in the same school, but their graduation certificates were different. Pin Liang and Xiaofu didn't care about these things. The first thing they did when they got back to school was to find Meng Yao. Yao. Pin Liang hadn't seen Meng Yao for a long time, and his heart was pounding with excitement. Pin Yang? Meng Yao and Yushu had just finished class and were about to go to the cafeteria for lunch when they saw Pin Liang and Xiaofu waiting for them at the economics building. Haha, Yao, we are classmates again. This is really something to be happy about. Pin Liang knew that Meng Yao had never liked him before, but he wasn't discouraged. He finally had his chance. He was invincible under Sky class, and he had the right to pursue Meng Yao again. Oh, Meng Yao nodded. Shu and I are going for lunch now. You can go back to your work. Meng Yao still didn't have a good attitude towards Pin Liang. She said a few words and prepared to leave. Wait, Yao, where's Lin Yi? Pin Liang asked as soon as he got back. He wanted to spar with Lin Yi to see who was better, himself or Lin Yi. Lin Yi's busy these past 2 days. What's up with you? Meng Yao asked. Haha, it's fine. Isn't he too incompetent as a bodyguard? Pin Liang shook his head and said sarcastically, Yao, I think that Yao is the only one who can protect you. You should replace him. Substitution? Who should they replace? Could it be you? Meng Yao frowned. She didn't want to waste any more time with Pin Liang. Wasn't this guy scared of Lin Yi? Why did he become so arrogant after disappearing for a period of time? That's right. Pin Liang patted his chest happily after hearing Meng Yao's words. I was just about to recommend myself. I didn't expect Yao's eyes to be so accurate. Meng Yao was speechless at Pin Liang's shameless words. After a while, then, he said helplessly, I'm going to eat. Don't. How about this? I'll treat you to dinner. Pin Liang quickly stopped Meng Yao. No need, Meng Yao said faintly. Yao, we're old classmates after all. You won't reject an old classmate's treat, will you? Pin Liang said, Besides, I'm no longer the Pin Liang from before. I'm a master Pin Liang now. Even Lin, he might not be as good as me. I'll be your bodyguard this time. I promise that no one will dare to bully you." Meng Yao frowned and wanted to say something, but Yushu interrupted. "Liang Yi, are you really that good?" "Of course, I'm pretty good now." Pin Liang nodded. "Oh, in school, we have a few enemies. Since you're so powerful, why don't you come with us? Since you're so good, why don't you beat them up for me?" Yushu rolled her eyes and thought of a way to get rid of Pin Liang. "Oh, someone dares to bully you? That Lin, he doesn't care? He's not a good bodyguard at all." Pin Liang was puzzled. "Shield bro," he intervened. "He beat that person up, and that person begged for mercy. But I don't think it's enough, so I want to beat him up again. If you can't do it, then forget it." Yushu said, "Move aside. Yao Yao sis and I are going to dinner." "Sure, who said I can't do it?" Pin Liang said immediately. "Tell me, who do you want to beat up?" "The boxing club's president, Li Biaohan." "You go beat him up." Yushu said. "Oh, okay, I'll remember." Pin Liang nodded and promised. "I'll show Yao Yao what I'm capable of, just wait and see." "Okay, after you beat him up, I'll send you on a few missions. If you pass, I'll consider persuading Yao Yao sis to take you as her bodyguard." Yushu said. "Haha, Shu, you and I are the best, hee hee." Pin Liang took out a map of the school, looked at it, and waved his hand happily. "Xiaofu, let's go fight." "Yes, Liang bro." Xiaofu replied quickly and walked towards the boxing club with Pin Liang. "Phew, they're finally gone." Meng Yao sighed in relief and turned to Yushu. "Shu, why did you send him to beat up that Li Biaohan?" "That Li Biaohan is a golden class late phase peak. Didn't Pin Liang say how strong he is?" "Then let him get beaten up," Yushu said. "If you don't send him to get beaten up, he'll still bother us." "You're right, but isn't this a bit bad?" Meng Yao didn't like Pin Liang, but she felt that Shu's idea was a bit bad. "What's bad about it?" "It's not bad at all," Yushu said matter-of-factly. "How can he be a bodyguard if he can't even beat Li Biaohan?" "All right, I hope he doesn't get beaten to death." Meng Yao shook her head and went to the cafeteria with Yushu. But Meng Yao and Yushu hadn't even finished their meal when Pin Liang came to the cafeteria with Xiaofu. He found Meng Yao and Yushu and said proudly, "Li Biaohan, it's done. He's so weak in front of me. He's just a golden class, late phase peak. I'll beat him up until he's sent to the hospital." "Ah." Meng Yao froze at Pin Liang's words. Yushu, on the other hand, widened her eyes in shock. Was this Pin Liang? He'd beat Li Biaohan. He even knew that Li Biaohan was a master at the peak of the late phase of the golden class. Chapter 2488. Haha, I told you, I'm no longer the Zhong Ping Liang I used to be. I'm a master Zhong Ping Liang now. Pin Liang saw the shocked expressions on Meng Yao and Yushu's faces, pleased with himself. "What do you think? I'm qualified to be your bodyguard now, right? Lin Yi's just SOSO. Li Biaohan was quite the unlucky one." Pin Liang came to the boxing club, asked who Li Biaohan was, and started beating him to death with his specially made rod. This rod was given to him by Zhang Naipeo and was made out of mystic steel, the material used to forge mystical weapons. While the everyday and everyday sect didn't have the ability to forge it into a mystical weapon, it wasn't hard to forge a rod that didn't require chi. The reason why Pin Liang was given this rod was to make up for Pin Liang's weakness of being only able to defend. Pin Liang's mid-level golden cicada undershirt could protect his entire body from harm. After putting it on, the exposed parts of his face and hands would automatically be protected. It was enough to prove that this mid-level golden cicada undershirt was a super treasure. But Pin Liang wasn't afraid of a fight. If others couldn't hit him, then he wouldn't be able to hit anyone. In order for him to win, Naipeo had asked his master, Pure Yang Sky Master, to forge this mystical steel rod for him. Although this black iron steel rod was not a heaven-rank divine weapon, it could hit all cultivators below the heaven rank. True chi protection was useless. Encountering this black iron steel rod, which was used to forge heaven-ranked divine weapons, one would still be injured. But Pin Liang didn't have chi, and the damage he could do was limited. The lower the practitioner's level, the more damage he could deal. Plus, it was suitable for a long fight, and 1 or 2 hits wouldn't cause too much damage. This thing wasn't afraid of chi protection, but the damage it could deal depended on Pin Liang's strength. The stronger he was, the more vicious the damage he could deal. And so, Li Biaohan was in big trouble. Pin Liang entered the boxing club alone and started smashing Li Biaohan with a steel rod. It didn't matter if it was Li Biaohan or his men, no matter how they fought back. Zhong Pingliang didn't dodge. As strong as Li Biaohan was, he couldn't handle Pin Liang's relentless attacks. After a while, his head was bleeding and he fainted on the ground. His lackeys were also crying out in pain from Pin Liang's attacks. Listen up, I'm Zhong Pingliang, the boss of this school from now on. I'm now the leader of the school's young thugs. Anyone who isn't convinced can come and find me anytime. Pin Liang knocked all the boxing club members to the ground as he raised his steel rod. Meng Yao is my goddess. Anyone who dares to bully her is my enemy. I'm Yao Yao's personal bodyguard now. Come at me if you want to die. After declaring Meng Yao's ownership, Pin Liang and Xiaofu left the boxing club in a high-profile manner. Xiaofu, on the other hand, didn't make a move. Only when he saw that Pin Liang had won did he jump out and cheer. News spread like wildfire in the school, and the news of Pin Liang taking on a boxing club spread like wildfire. Yao Yao, I've taken care of that Li Biaohan. That guy's probably going to spend the next few months in the hospital. Pin Liang said proudly. Yeah, Liang bro, you'll know once you make a move. The entire boxing club is useless now. Liang bro took them on all by himself. Xiaofu added. Meng Yao froze. She didn't expect Pin Liang to be this strong. Yu Shu, on the other hand, looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. How did he become this strong? No way. She had to find something to evaluate his strength and see if he was as strong as Shield Bro. If he was stronger than Shield Bro, she had to think of a way to get rid of him. Oh, Liang-yi, I didn't expect this. You're making me dig my eyes out. Yushu said, surprised. That's right. Shu, do you think I'm qualified to be Yao Yao's bodyguard now? Pin Liang thought that Yushu really admired him. It wasn't surprising. He was so strong now, and his mentality had changed. He thought that he was the strongest. Now, I don't think so. That Li Biaohan is just the weakest. You beat him up, and that means you have a chance to be Yao Yao's bodyguard, but it's just a chance. Yushu said, next, I'll give you a few missions to test you. If you complete them, I'll recommend you to Yao Yao and let you be her bodyguard. Yushu was trying to trick Pin Liang again. He passed the mission, and it was just a recommendation. If Meng Yao didn't agree, everything would go to waste. But Pin Liang's confidence was inflated, and naturally, he didn't know that Yushu was messing with him. Instead, he was eager to show off. All right, tell me. I'll beat up whoever you want me to beat up, as many times as you want me to beat up. There's someone called Tiger Right. He has a golden class and a mystic class with him. Can you handle them? Yushu started to trick Tiger Right again. Golden class and mystic class? It's nothing. Tell me, where are they from? Pin Liang nodded after hearing the two's levels. They're biology majors. Yushu said, all right, I'll go deal with them. Pin Liang nodded and strode out of the cafeteria, looking for Tiger Right and his men. Yushu realized that something was wrong as well. Pin Liang should know how strong a mystic class master was, but judging from his nonchalant attitude, it didn't seem like he was afraid of a mystic class master at all. Yao Yao, something's not right. Is Pin Liang an earth class already? Yushu looked at Pin Liang's back in disbelief. That's weird. Shu, don't shoot yourself in the foot. What if he's really strong? Are you really going to let him be my bodyguard? Meng Yao said, speechless. I won't. My last mission is to have him fight with Shield Bro. If he beats Shield Bro, I'll recommend him, Yushu said. Oh, then you're setting him up. Meng Yao nodded, but then frowned. What if he's really stronger than Lin Yi? Yushu hesitated. Yao Yao. Actually, if he's stronger than Shield Bro and he comes to bother you, there's nothing we can do. You're right, Meng Yao thought about it. Then, will Lin Yi be his match? Chapter 2489. I don't know. I'll test him a little more. Maybe he'll accept the inheritance? How'd he get so strong all of a sudden? What a scam. Yushu couldn't understand how Pin Liang had become so strong all of a sudden. Inheritance? No way. Meng Yao paused, feeling uneasy. She was really afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to take him on. Panhu, Rai was very happy today because Lin Yi didn't come to school. These days, he and Zhao Long had been pretending to be obedient with Lin Yi around. It wasn't that they were cowards. It was just that Lin Yi had brought them too much shock. Today, Lin Yi wasn't here, and Panhu, Rai, and Zhao Long had been laying low for the whole morning. They were just about to go meet Han Jingjing when someone shouted at the door. "Where's Panhu, Rai? Who's Panhu, Rai? Get your ass out here, Liang bro." Pin Liang knocked on the door with his steel rod as he yelled. Panhu Rai froze. He was considered a tough guy in school. Other than Lin Yi, who else would dare to disrespect him? Even Li Biaohan from the Firewolves and Niadeo from the Hidden House wouldn't dare say something like that. Other than Lin Yi, no one else dared to use the word fuck off on him. "Who are you? Do you want to die? How dare you insult our master Panhu?" Before Panhu, Rai could say anything, his two lackeys stood up and charged at the door. "You two are Panhu Rai's lackeys? A golden class and a mystic class?" Pin Liang asked as he looked at the two rushing at him. "That's right. Where are you from?" Yellow Hair paused. He didn't think that this guy would know his and Purple Hair's strength. He didn't seem like an idiot who didn't know anything. Could it be that he had some sort of background? Oh, if that's the case, then prepare to get beaten up. Pin Liang's rod smashed over, hitting Blondie's head. He didn't split his head open, but it was still enough to draw blood. Yellow Hair didn't think that Pin Liang would hit him just like that. He didn't say anything, so he didn't put up any defenses and got hit. This time, he didn't fall to the ground, but he was still dizzy. Before he could react, the rod came smashing over again. Bang, bang, bang. Pin Liang's speed was fast. He knew his weakness and wanted to finish the fight as soon as possible. "Little bastard, you're courting death." The Yellow Hair was furious. "Purple Hair, kill him." Purple Hair also reacted at this moment. When he saw Pin Liang smashing his metal rod at Goldie, he threw a punch at Pin Liang. However, Purple Hair was puzzled. This Zhong Pin Liang didn't seem to be a practitioner. That iron rod was pretty strong, but he couldn't tell his level at all. This guy didn't have any true chi at all, and he couldn't be like other external martial arts experts who could mobilize the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth to form true chi. Just how strong was this guy? However, no matter how strong he was, Purple Hair was confident that he could cripple Zhong Ping Liang with one punch. He was a mystic class master. The punch wasn't weak, and he purposely held back some of his strength. Otherwise, he could have killed Pin Liang with just one punch. It was just that what happened next was a little inconceivable for Purple Hair. Purple Hair's fist landed on Pin Liang's body. Pin Liang didn't seem to have any reaction at all. He didn't dodge, didn't even make a sound, and continued to beat the Yellow Hair with a metal rod. Bang, bang, bang. Pin Liang smashed faster and faster, getting better and better. This was the first time he realized how fun it was to hit people. No wonder Lin Yi liked to bully him. Ouch! The Yellow Hair panicked when he saw that Purple Hair couldn't take down Pin Liang. He didn't care about using pure energy to protect his body anymore. He charged at Pin Liang and started punching and kicking. But the tragic thing was, although his punches and kicks landed on Pin Liang's body, it didn't seem to have any effect, because Pin Liang was still beating him fiercely. He didn't care about his and Purple Hair's attacks. Finally, the Yellow Hair's vision became blurry, and he lost his footing. He fainted on the ground, and Pin Liang turned around and started beating Purple Hair with the steel rod. This feeling made Pin Liang feel like he was walking on air. When he fought with others couldn't beat him, but he could beat them. Purple Hair realized that something was wrong. The kid in front of him clearly wasn't afraid of hitting. No matter how he hit him, it was useless. He didn't seem to be injured at all, and he had already suffered many external injuries. Purple Hair also realized that the rod in Pin Liang's hand wasn't a normal metal rod. It seemed to be a treasure that could pass through his pure energy protection and directly hurt his body. Thinking of this, Purple Hair reached out to snatch the steel rod from Pinliang's hand. But, just as his hand grabbed the end of the steel rod, he suddenly felt a strong high-voltage electricity coming from the end of the steel rod, directly spreading through Purple Hair's body. Purple Hair cried out in pain, and after a while, he fell to the ground with black smoke coming out of his head. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. S.B. Pinliang looked at the purple hair on the ground in disdain. This steel rod was something Zhang Naipeo had asked the pure Yang Sky Master to design for him. The Everyday Sect was a demonic sect, and naturally, they had some demonic methods. Although they couldn't make Sky-class weapons, they could modify some mechanisms in the weapons. For example, Pinliang's steel rod had some mechanisms installed in it, and when someone tried to snatch it, it would automatically release high-voltage electricity. Right Coiling Tiger stood in the classroom, dumbfounded at the sudden appearance of this devil. He was shocked. Who was this kid? Where did he come from? How could he be so ferocious that he could beat his two subordinates to the ground? It's your turn. Pinliang used the steel rod to point at Right Coiling Tiger. Come over. If you don't defend, I'll give you a quick death. Who are you? Did I offend you? Yu Coiling Tiger felt a little guilty. Although he was very powerful in the Yu family, he was not powerful now. The person in front of him was obviously very strong. Most importantly, he was not afraid of fighting. This made Yu Coiling Tiger tremble with fear. I'm Zhong Pinliang. Pinliang knocked on the door frame. You didn't offend me, but you offended my goddess. Who's your goddess? Right Coiling Tiger paused. Meng Yao. I'm her personal bodyguard. Pinliang said. Meng Yao. Right Coiling Tiger paused again, almost crying. Fuck, when did I offend her? I don't even know her. The only contact I've had is when that girl next to her hit me with a bowling ball. I'm the victim. Chapter 2490. I don't care, my goal is to beat you up. Pinliang didn't care how Coiling Tiger explained. His goal was to beat Coiling Tiger up and get credit from Yushu. He didn't care if Coiling Tiger's words were true or not. I'm a second young master of the Hidden House Yu. You'll be in trouble if you beat me up. Coiling Tiger had no choice but to bring out the House Yu's name, hoping that Pinliang would be scared and stop. What Hidden House Yu? It's just a small hidden house. It's nothing. I'm the disciple of the Everyday and Everyday Sex Master, pure Yang Sky Master. With that, Pinliang raised a steel rod and swung it at Tiger. Right Coiling Tiger froze. Everyday and Everyday Sect? Why did their disciple come to Donghai Industry University? What was going on? But before he could figure it out, he was hit by Pinliang's iron rod. It wasn't even as good as Purple Hair and Yellow Hair. He was a pure elixir refiner with no attack or defense skills, and he had no experience at all. Cries of pain rang through the hallway, and it wasn't long before Coiling Tiger's eyes rolled back as he laid on the ground, accompanied by Yellow Hair and Purple Hair. Liang bro, you're amazing. At this moment, Gao Xiaofu appeared out of nowhere and said proudly, These people are a piece of cake for Brother Liang. That's right. Don't you know who gave me this treasure? Pinliang left the biology building with Xiaofu and went to find Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao and Yushu didn't think that Pinliang would come back so fast, coming back in the blink of an eye. Liang-yi, you took care of that Coiling Tiger? Yushu felt that things weren't looking good. It seemed like Pinliang was many times stronger than before. Ha, of course, look at who did it. Pinliang smiled. That kid and his two underlings were no match for me. They're just trash. How about it? Do I have the right to be Yao Yao's personal bodyguard now? Yushu hesitated. No, these people are small fries. Shield Bro can take care of them in a matter of minutes. If you want to be Sister Yao Yao's personal expert, you still need to work hard. I see. Pinliang was a little disappointed, but it made sense. He was already in Earth class. Beating up Mystic and Golden class practitioners would be a piece of cake for him. He just proved that he could fight as well. But he didn't show Meng Yao and Yushu just how strong he was, and that was the problem. Yeah, so you still need to prove your strength. Yushu said. Then what's my next mission? Pinliang asked. About that. Let me think about it. I don't want to make it hard for you. Yushu said, how about this? Liang, you go back and wait for my news. Oh, right. Sister Yao Yao said she wants to eat the spicy skewers from the food street in Songshan City. Go buy some. Oh, that works too. Zhong Pinliang nodded. Then he said, isn't it just spicy skewers? I'll go buy them now. With that, Pinliang left with Xiaofu. Meng Yao, on the other hand, was a little troubled. Yushu might have sent Pinliang away for now, but he'd come back sooner or later to bother them, especially now that he'd become so powerful. It'd be even harder to get rid of him now. Shoo, Pinliang's so strong. What should we do? Should we tell Lin? Meng Yao thought about it. Yushu said, yeah, we have to tell Shielbro, but first we need to figure out why Pinliang's so strong. Yushu said, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle. Then how do we investigate him? Meng Yao asked. I'm going to talk to Han Jingjing. Doesn't she like to play with high-tech stuff? Let's see if she has a listening device or something. We'll put one on Pinliang, and we'll be able to eavesdrop on his secrets. Yushu said, sounds good. Meng Yao nodded. And so, while Pinliang went to buy the spicy skewers, Yushu went to find Han Jingjing. Han Jingjing didn't have such a thing, but she knew where to buy it. But they knew where to buy it. Meng Yao drove the whole afternoon, bringing Han Jingjing and Shu to buy a listening device. When they came back, Zhong Pinliang had just come back as well. Meng Yao thought to herself that it was a close shave. Pinliang might suspect something if he saw that they weren't in school. In fact, it was all because of Meng Yao's guilty conscience. Pinliang wouldn't think much of it even if she wasn't in school. Shu, on the other hand, walked up to Pinliang with the listening device in her hand and took the piping hot spicy skewers from him with a smile. Liang, thank you. Ah, you're welcome. It's what I should do. Pinliang said, I'll just treat it as a preview of what to do when I become Yao Yao's personal bodyguard. And not bad. It's still warm. Yushu patted Pinliang's shoulder and stuck the listening device on his back. The listening device was very small, and it looked like a button on Pinliang's back. If one didn't look closely, they wouldn't be able to see it. Yao Yao asked me to encourage you. Keep it up. Xiao Yangzi, you know, Sister Yao Yao likes brave people. I know. Pinliang thought that it was Meng Yao's idea when Yushu patted him on the shoulder. He was very excited. Yushu had been toying with him a lot in the past, but she had never patted him on the shoulder like this. This kind of change was enough to show the change in Meng Yao's heart. If Meng Yao still hated him that much, she wouldn't have told Yushu to pat his shoulder to encourage him. From what Pinliang could see, Yushu had always been looking down on him. She had never been this kind before. And it's good that you know. Yushu nodded. There are some things that Yao Yao is too embarrassed to say. I'll pass it on for her. Do you want to hear it? Yes, of course I want to hear it. Pinliang replied quickly. All right, since you want to hear it, I'll tell you. Right now, we've only seen a part of what you're capable of. To be precise, we don't know much about you yet. How about this? Try your best to challenge some masters and make a name for yourself. That's the only way you can become Yao Yao's personal bodyguard. Yushu said. Chapter 2491. It was so nice to watch without ads. Look at Shielbro, he's famous now. Zhang Wen and Zhao Qibing are both scared to death when they hear his name, so he doesn't even need to do anything when there's a lot of trouble. He just needs to stand out and tell them his name, and they'll be scared to death. But you can't do that yet. I see. Pinliang nodded. Yushu was right. It was the truth. Lin Yi's name was like a tree's shadow, and Lin Yi's name was definitely famous. Even the practitioners who participated in the Ice Palace's trial would be scared when they heard Lin Yi's name. Of course, this was what Zhang Naipeo told him. Zhang Naipeo's setback forced him to take Lin Yi seriously. He needed to train hard and defeat Lin Yi the next time they met. Zhang Wen, Zhao Qibing. These two names made Pinliang feel a little guilty. He was very strong now, but Zhang Wen and Zhao Qibing weren't pushovers either. Their individual strength wasn't good enough, but they had gangs and families backing them up. The firewolves had many masters, and the hidden house, Zhao, had a sky class as well. Pin Liang didn't dare to go after them, but he wanted to prove how strong he was, so he had to think of a way. All right, I'll go back and think about how I can prove my bravery. I'll be heading back first. Shu, please put in a good word for me in front of Yao Yao. Pin Liang said, no problem. Yushu nodded and waved her hand to send Pin Liang off. When he was far away, Yushu put an earphone in her ear. Can we really find out what they're after? Meng Yao sighed. She couldn't figure out why Pin Liang had become so strong. It should be possible. They're discussing how to prove Pin Liang's strength right now. Yushu said, indeed, Pin Liang and Xiaofu were discussing how to prove their strength. Liang bro, why don't you go beat up Zhao Qibing and Zhang Wen again? Xiaofu said, isn't that the simplest way? Idiot. Zhang Wen kicked Xiaofu's foot. Why are you still so retarded? So impulsive? Can't you learn from me and think before you act? Qibing and Zhang Wen aren't that easy to beat up. That Zhao Qibing, no matter how strong he is, he can't be above Sky Class, can he? At most, he's an Earth Class master. What's there to be afraid of? Gao Xiaofu said, as for that in Zhang Wen, he was more like an ordinary person, right? Brother Liang has the golden cicada undergarment. As long as the opponent is not a heaven stage expert, Brother Liang can definitely win, right? You idiot, behind Zhao Qibing is the hidden house Zhao. They have a Sky Class master. Of course, I'll beat him up and reveal my identity as a disciple of the everyday and everyday sect. The hidden Zhao family definitely won't dare to do anything to me. The most important thing was Zhang Wen. Although he is an ordinary person, do you know that the Firewolf gang is filled with experts? They're not weaker than the everyday and everyday sect. Pin Liang glared at Xiaofu. You think I don't want to touch Zhang Wen? One of my kidneys was cut off by him. If possible, I'd send him to heaven first, but no, they're not afraid of us. Then we'll start with Zhao Qibing. Xiaofu said, that's the only way. Pin Yang nodded. Let's beat up that Zhao Qibing first. We'll think of something else. All right, we'll go find Zhao Qibing later. Xiaofu nodded. Later my ass. Are you stupid? Beating up Zhao Qibing at house Zhao is suicide. Pin Liang raged. Either we hide our identity and get beaten up by that Sky Class master, old Zhao, or we reveal our identity. But we definitely won't be able to fight. Then what do we do? Xiaofu asked carefully. He realized that his IQ wasn't enough anymore. It seemed like Liang Bro really wasn't the Liang Bro he used to be. He was much more intelligent now. In fact, a person would definitely grow after going through big ups and downs. It was just that Pin Liang's comprehension was stronger. Let's go find Right Coiling Tiger. That guy definitely knows Zhao Qibing. Let him make a call. Ask Zhao Qibing out. He knows who we are. He wouldn't dare disobey us, Pin Liang said. That works. Xiaofu thought about it and realized that Liang Bro was smart. And so, the two went back to find Right Coiling Tiger. Right Coiling Tiger had just woken up, and although he didn't need to go to the hospital after taking the elixir, he was still heavily injured and could only rest in his seat. The three of them were very depressed. They didn't even know Meng Yao and Yushu, and they were beaten up for no reason. This guy was a disciple of the everyday and everyday sect too. It was impossible for them to take revenge. Even the people from a Sky Elixir sect had to avoid the people from the everyday and everyday sect. There was no other reason other than that these people were too evil. Just like that Pin Liang from before. He didn't seem to have much attack power, and his combat ability was very low, but he was very resistant. There was also a clear difference between him and the disciples of the Golden Bell sect. He didn't have any strength at all, unlike the physical practitioners. That wasn't all. The iron rod in his hand was even weirder. The seemingly ordinary iron rod was able to pierce through the chi protection. It was a little strange. How unlucky. I thought that Lin, you would be gone for a few days, and then this Zhong Pin Liang came out of nowhere. Fuck. Right Coiling Tiger was furious. Right, Master, did this guy hit the wrong person? We didn't bully Meng Yao at all, but you got smashed in the head by that big tits girl next to Meng Yao. This is too unfair. Yellow Hair said angrily. What do we do about it? Right Coiling Tiger said helplessly. We can't just take revenge, can we? Let's not talk about whether we can beat him or not. Even if we can, do you think his background is weak? He's from the everyday and everyday sect. Luckily, he didn't want our lives, so we'll let this pass. We'll be more careful in the future, and don't mess with him. We'll treat him the same way we treated Lin E. Purple Hair suggested after some thought. Yes, I think that'll work. Right, Coiling Tiger nodded and agreed. Right, Coiling Tiger, are you dead or not? If you're not, come out. Pinliang's voice came from the classroom door again. Oh my god, why is he back again? Right, Coiling Tiger was shocked when he heard the voice, almost crying. To be continued. For the latest chapters, please log in. Reading is a pleasure. I recommend you bookmark it. For more full-text novels, download. Chapter 2492. However, Pinliang brought Xiaofu into the classroom as he spoke, still holding his steel rod in his hand. You Coiling Tiger hurriedly lay on the table and pretended to be dead. Previously, he had wasted a small rejuvenation pill to heal his injuries. If he were to be beaten again, not only would he be in pain, but he would also lose his small rejuvenation pill. He couldn't possibly carry a bunch of small rejuvenation pills with him every day, right? Hey, don't play dead. Pinliang smashed the steel rod on the corner of You Coiling Tiger's table. I'm dead, You Coiling Tiger said. Motherfucker, you're lying to me, right? You think I'm easy to bully? If it was Lin E, would you dare lie to me like that? Pinliang raged. Fine, I'm alive again. You Coiling Tiger jumped and sat up, his face bitter. Leon bro, why are you here again? Didn't you teach us a lesson? We know we won't mess with Mengyao anymore, okay? That's not it. Pinliang waved his hand. Do you know Zhao Qibing? Zhao Qibing? I do. Why are you asking about him? You Coiling Tiger paused. Good, Pinliang said. Call him now and ask him out. I don't care what reason you have. I want to see him before school ends today. Ask him out. Leon bro. You Coiling Tiger let out a breath of relief when he heard that Pinliang wasn't here to beat him up, but at the same time, he was confused. Why was he looking for Zhao Qibing? Oh, I'm gonna beat him up, but don't tell him. If he runs away, I'll have to beat you up, Pinliang said. I see, that's easy. You Coiling Tiger nodded, thinking that it was fine as long as it had nothing to do with him. As for Zhao Qibing, he didn't care if he lived or died. The relationship between the Hidden House, Zhao, and the Hidden House, you wasn't that good anyways. You Coiling Tiger sold Zhao Qibing out. All right, call me when he's here. Here's my number. Pinliang was very happy to see Right Panhu's cooperation. He left his number and left with Xiaofu. Got it, Liang bro. Panhu Right wrote down Pinliang's number, wondering if this guy was Lin Yi's enemy. If it was Lin Yi's enemy, then he could sit on the mountain and reap the spoils. But it seemed that this guy's goal was similar to Lin Yi's. Lin Yi's enemy was Pinliang's enemy. Yu Panhu gave Zhao Qibing a call. The reason was simple. There was someone in school who wanted to see him, and it was someone who was very likely to come. Zhao Qibing was fighting for the position of the young head of the Hidden House Zhao. And when he heard that Panhu Right had a very powerful friend who wanted to see him, he happily drove to Donghai Industry University. Panhu Right, on the other hand, called Pinliang and told him to wait for Zhao Qibing at the parking lot in front of school. Not long after, Zhao Qibing drove his new Porsche Cayenne to Donghai Industry University. He parked the car in the parking lot and was about to call Tiger Right when someone knocked on the car door. What? Zhao Qibing rolled down the window and asked Pinliang angrily, Who the hell are you? Fuck, Zhao Qibing, don't you recognize me? Pinliang smashed his rod down on the front of Zhao Qibing's car, forming a dent. You're Zhong Pinliang? Zhao Qibing looked at Zhong Pinliang and froze. He recognized him. Zhong Fabai used to be Zhao Qibing's underling. How could Zhao Qibing not recognize Pinliang? But he didn't understand why Pinliang would call himself your father in front of him. Did this kid want to die? Very well, you still recognize me. Pinliang reached out and grabbed Zhao Qibing's collar. Get out of the car. Fuck, you used to order me and my dad around like dogs, offending Lin E, and I almost died. You, on the other hand, just left like that. Are you crazy? How dare you insult me? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am now? Zhao Qibing raged. How could he tolerate his underling ordering him around? He pushed the door open and got out of the car. I do. Aren't you Zhao Qibing from the hidden house, Zhao? You're the one I'm hitting. Pin Liang's rod smashed into Qibing's head, making him lose his bearings. You dare hit me? Zhao Qibing was shocked and angry, but Pin Liang's rod came smashing at him again. Zhao Qibing didn't dare to be careless. He quickly channeled his practitioner's arts and used his pure qi to protect his body. Then he kicked at Pin Liang, but Pin Liang didn't dodge or dodge. He let Zhao Qibing kick him, but the rod in his hand kept smashing into Zhao Qibing's body. Zhao Qibing kicked Pin Liang twice before realizing that his pure qi protection was useless. Pin Liang's rod was still coming at him, and he was still hurting. Was the pure qi protection useless? Or did Pin Liang have the ability to break through it? Zhao Qibing was shocked at the thought. He quickly used his hands to protect his head so that he wouldn't bleed. Then, he kicked at Pin Liang with both legs. Fuck, your legs are pretty strong, aren't they? I'll let you kick me. Pin Liang saw that Zhao Qibing used his hands to protect his head and swung his rod, hitting Zhao Qibing's right leg. Ouch! Zhao Qibing cried out in pain. His leg was his weakest part, and although Pin Liang's rod didn't break it, it was still painful enough to make him grimace. I'll let you kick me. I'll let you kick me. I'll let you kick me. I'll let you kick me, Pin Liang said as he swung the steel rod at Qibing's legs. In an instant, Qibing's good leg was crippled, and he fell to the ground on his, but Pin Liang didn't seem to be satisfied yet. He swung the rod at Zhao Qibing's other leg, and with a series of smashes, Zhao Qibing's left leg was broken as well. The tragic Zhao Qibing could only lie on the ground and twitch. Zhong Pin Liang, I'll remember you. The hidden house, Zhao, won't let you go. Zhao Qibing didn't know how Pin Liang became so strong, but he couldn't help but threaten him. Oh, whatever. I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm the head of the everyday and everyday sect, Pure Yang Sky Master. If you want to go against the everyday and everyday sect, go ahead. I don't mind letting my master kill you all. Pin Liang said calmly. Why? Zhao Qibing was dumbfounded by Pin Liang's words. Chapter 2493. It was so cool to watch without ads. He had never expected Pin Liang to be from the ancient sect, the everyday and everyday sect. No wonder he was so strong. He had a master. Not to mention the ancient sects. Just Lin Yi alone was enough to render the hidden house, Zhao, helpless. The hidden house, Zhao definitely didn't dare to provoke the ancient sects. So Zhao Qibing stopped moving. It seemed like he had broken his leg for nothing again. I say, Zhao Qibing, do you still want revenge? Pin Liang was overjoyed when he saw Zhao Qibing's dispirited expression the moment he heard the name of the everyday and everyday sect. The sect's name was indeed resounding. Pin Liang, even if you want me to die, you should at least know the reason. Although you used to be my underling, I treated you well, didn't I? Why did you hit me like this? Qibing didn't think about revenge anymore. He just wanted to know what was going on. It's nothing, actually. My goddess told me to hit you. You didn't mess with me, but you messed with my goddess. Pin Liang said, Your goddess? Who is it? Qibing paused before remembering Pin Liang's crush. Chu Mengyao. That's right, Chu Mengyao. Pin Liang nodded. You're in cahoots with Linny? Qibing jumped in fright at Pin Liang's admission. Of course not. I'm trying to steal his position. Pin Liang said, Right, let me ask you, what's Lin Yi's strength now? Strength? Earth class mid-phase or peak mid-phase? Qibing said, Why are you asking? You can beat Linny? Earth class, huh? That's not a problem. I'll get him. Pin Liang nodded in relief. All right, Zhao Qibing, I'm done with you. You can leave now. Since you used to be my boss, I won't knock you out. I'll let you leave awake. Pin Liang nodded after hearing that. Qibing was about to say that he was looking for someone when he thought of something. You didn't ask you upon who to call me, did you? That's me. Zhong. Pin Liang nodded. What the fuck? Right, coiling tiger is too much. How dare he trick me? Qibing was pissed. Oh, I beat him up too. Pin Liang said nonchalantly. He's worse off than you. He's unconscious. I see. Qibing felt much better after hearing that. He took out his phone and called the hidden house Zhao, asking them to pick him up. I'm going. It's time for me to report to my goddess. Pin Liang said as he walked towards the economics building with Xiaofu in tow, his staff in hand. Yushu, on the other hand, had heard everything clearly and told Meng Yao everything that had happened. You're saying that Zhong Pingliang joined the everyday sect and became their leader? Meng Yao was shocked. And he got his hands on the golden cicada underwear as well? Is it because of this underwear that he can take a beating? That should be the case. Yushu nodded. That underwear, didn't Lin Yi give us one too? Meng Yao remembered the low-class golden cicada underwear that Lin Yi won at the Hidden House Summit. But ours isn't as high class as Zhong Pingliang's. Yeah, the underwear that Shield Bro won can only defend against Earth class and below. It's useless against Earth class and above. Yushu nodded. Lin Yi had wanted to wash the underwear and give it to Meng Yao or Yushu for protection. But Chen Tian could take care of anyone below Earth class, so the golden cicada underwear was useless. He'd left it home and never used it. So that's how Zhong Pingliang got so strong. He's just a cockroach that can't be killed. He doesn't have any real skills. Meng Yao said, but that iron rod of his seems to be a little mysterious. Masters like Zhao Qibing and Right Coiling Tiger have chi protection, but Zhong Pingliang can still fight. Yeah, this guy has quite a lot of treasures on him. Yushu's eyes rolled around as she started thinking about Pingliang's treasures. Shu, you're not thinking about taking his stuff for yourself, are you? Meng Yao knew Shu's expression all too well. One look, and you could tell that she was after Pingliang's stuff. Ha 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 ha. Yushu laughed evilly. This is good stuff. So what if it's good stuff? You can't just take it from Pingliang's body, can you? Meng Yao said helplessly. That's true, but we can think of something. Yushu said, no matter what, let's tell Lin Yi about what happened here, so he can prepare himself. Let's see if he can think a way to deal with Pingliang. Meng Yao said, yeah, that's a good idea. But wait, Pingliang's here again. Yushu said, as expected, not long after, Pingliang appeared in front of Meng Yao in Yushu's classroom. Compared to how arrogant he was when he won a coiling tiger right, Pingliang was much more well-behaved in front of Meng Yao's classroom. The steel rod in his hand was disguised as a baseball bat, and it wasn't that eye-catching when he carried it on his shoulder. Pingliang walked up to Meng Yao and Yushu with a smile on his face. Yao Shu, I've beaten up that Zhao Qibing. Is there anything else I can do for you? Chem, I heard you only broke Zhao Qibing's legs, didn't knock him out? You seem to have gone easy on him. Is there something going on between you? Yushu asked. Pingliang paused. He didn't think that the news would spread so fast. Yushu knew about it right after he beat up Zhao Qibing. Did she have eyes and ears nearby? But when he thought about it, it made sense that Lin Yi would arrange Bodyguard around Meng Yao and Yushu. With that thought, Pingliang started to put up his guard. He wasn't afraid of being ambushed, but the feeling of being watched was very uncomfortable. That's not it, Pingliang quickly explained. Actually, I heard that Lin Yi likes to break Zhao Qibing's legs, right? That's why I copied Lin Yi. That won't do. If you copy Shield Bro, we only need Shield Bro. Why would we need a fake version like you? Yushu said with a wave of her hand. Liang Yi, your next step is to surpass Shield Bro in all aspects. For the latest chapters, please log in. It's a pleasure to read. I recommend you bookmark it. For more full-text novels, download. Chapter 2494. It felt so good to watch it without ads. Well, of course. Pingliang quickly nodded. Shu, what do you think I should do next? Next? I haven't thought of what to do yet. Just wait. Yushu said. I'll let you know when I'm done. I see. Then when can I become Yao Yao's bodyguard? Pingliang asked impatiently. I say, Liang Yi, haven't you heard of this saying? Haste makes waste. Do you know how long Shield Bro had been with Yao Yao for Yao Yao to accept him? Yushu humphed. Didn't you see how much Yao Yao begged Shield Bro at the beginning? She even used you to teach him a lesson in school. Yeah, Pin Liang remembered what had happened back in school. That was indeed the case. Back when he, Nai Peo, and Gao Xiaofu were causing trouble for Lin Yi, Meng Yao and Yushu had been very excited about it. That meant that Meng Yao had taken a long time to accept Lin Yi as her bodyguard. And that meant that replacing Lin Yi's position wasn't something that could be achieved in 1 or 2 days. So, Liang Yi, you should be grateful that I didn't encourage Yao Yao to get people to hurt you. It's good enough that I didn't stop you. If you're so impatient, I won't help you anymore. Yushu threatened. Don't, please don't. Pin Liang was really scared. Shu sis, you know me. I've always listened to you. It's always been like this, and it's still the same now. Look, you told me to buy spicy skewers, and I did. I'm always listening to you. Yeah, so I'll try my best. But you need to be strong yourself. Go back and wait for my news. I'll let you know when I think of the next mission, Yushu said. All right, I'll leave first, Shu sis. Pin Liang nodded to Yushu respectfully before leaving with Gao Xiaofu. Lin Yi listened to Meng Yao's story and felt a headache coming on. Pin Liang had gotten a golden cicada undergarment from the Everyday and Everyday sect. Moreover, it seems to be a high-grade item that can resist the attacks of powerhouses under the heaven rank. Isn't this a bit too amazing? Not only that, he also had an iron rod that could break through the protection of Jinqi. Wasn't this a legendary divine weapon? Pin Liang had gained quite a lot from this. It seemed like the Everyday and Everyday sect really valued him, or rather, valued Zhang Naipeo for Naipeo's sake. Had Naipeo recovered? Lin Yi hadn't heard from Naipeo in a long time. He'd crippled him last time. Could it be that he'd recovered after going back and was able to continue? With that thought, Lin Yi's face turned solemn. It seemed like he couldn't underestimate the Everyday and Everyday sect. They were an ancient sect, after all, able to recover from wounds like Naipeo's. Of course, this was all Lin Yi guessed from Pin Liang's situation. If Naipeo wasn't fine and able to continue, then he'd be useless. The Everyday and Everyday sect wouldn't care about Naipeo at all. Zhang Naipeo's this strong now. Lin Yi took a deep breath. He didn't say it, but he was worried. Would he be able to deal with him? Although he was currently in the Earth stage, he could activate a martial skill equivalent to a Heaven stage expert. Yeah, Lin Yi, do you have a way to beat him? Meng Yao asked. Yushu could deal with Pin Liang for a while, but it wouldn't be for long. Once Pin Liang came, Lin Yi would have to deal with him. Hard to say. Lin Yi frowned. I don't know much about the golden cicada underwear. I'll ask Han Xiaopa later. But don't provoke him for now. Just let Shu deal with him. We'll talk about it when I get back. All right, I understand. Shu could still stall for some time. It's not too urgent. Don't worry too much. Meng Yao comforted. Yeah, I know. I'll think of something. Lin Yi said. All right. I won't disturb you anymore. You, be careful. Meng Yao said. Ha, okay. Lin Yi hung up the phone with a smile. The miss still couldn't let go of herself in front of him. She was more concerned about him now, but Lin Yi still felt like something was missing. Was it? It seemed like that was the case. The two were a little too polite, but it was nothing. Lin Yi turned around and left the room. He had 2 things to do. One was to trade the ice crystal for the Earth Element Sky class blood from the Sky class, and the other was to find Han Xiaopa to research the golden cicada underwear. He came to Han Xiaopa's room and knocked on the door. Boss. Han Xiaopa saw Lin Yi through the peephole and quickly opened the door. He didn't expect Lin Yi to find him so soon. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi had to deal with Yang Qiqi first, then Xiaoka. The night would be gone by then. He walked into Han Xiaopa's room, and Han Xiaopa closed the door behind him. Boss, did you take care of things on your side? Haha, it's done. Lin Yi smiled. I have something to ask you. Boss, don't say that. Just say it. I'll tell you everything I know. Han Xiaopa quickly said. It's about the golden cicada underwear. Do you know about this thing? Lin Yi asked. I do. Didn't you win one at the Hidden House Summit? Han Xiaopa nodded. I did, but it's a low-tier golden cicada underwear. It can only defend against attacks from those below Earth class. Lin Yi nodded. Do you know what golden cicada underwear is? It could defend against attacks from those below Sky class. Oh, boss, you're talking about mid-tier Golden Cicada underwear? Mid-tier Golden Cicada underwear can defend against attacks from those below Sky class, Han Xiaopa said. But this thing is a treasure. Only those powerful blacksmiths and Sky class Golden Cicada spirit beasts could make it. Mid-tier Golden Cicada underwear. Lenny nodded. And there's also a high-tier one. The legends say that if you wear it, you'll be invincible under the heavenly Tao. Of course, that's just a legend. Whether or not it really exists, and who has it, I've never heard of it. Han Xiaopa smiled bitterly. After all, this thing is too heaven-defying. If it were to appear in the world, there would be a bloodbath for it. Oh, that's true. Lenny took in a cold breath. To be continued. For the latest chapters, please log in. Reading is a pleasure. I recommend you bookmark it. For more full-text novels, download. Chapter 2495. If there really was such a thing, then wouldn't it be invincible? Only the legendary elites in the Tao of Heaven could hurt the person wearing the high-grade Golden Cicada undergarment. Boss, why are you suddenly asking this? Han Xiaopa asked curiously. Did someone bring out this treasure to trade in this trade fair? No, I didn't. One of my old enemies joined the Everyday sect as a disciple and got a mid-level Golden Cicada undergarment. I don't know how to deal with him. Lenny didn't hide anything from Han Xiaopa. Oh, that's not good. Han Xiaopa thought about it, but couldn't think of anything. He shook his head. I've only heard of it. I've never seen it before. The Hidden House Han doesn't have any records of it either. Yeah, I'll think of something myself. Lenny nodded. If it comes down to it, I'll have to ask Old Pai to do it. If Lin Yi really couldn't beat Pin Liang, he'd have to ask Old Pai to intimidate him. Lin Yi didn't have any other ideas right now. That's good. Sky-class masters are actually the best counter to mid-tier Golden Cicada underwear, Han Xiaopa said. One more thing. How do we find the practitioners who set up their stalls during the day? Lin Yi asked. Practitioners who set up their stalls during the day? What do you want to trade, boss? Han Xiaopa asked. The blood of the earth, element, sky, class, spirit beast. Lin Yi said. You should remember, the cool girl in the black leather shirt and pants asked about that thing. Oh, it's that thing. Han Xiaopa nodded. We'll have to go to the reception downstairs to check. Some traders will register the items they want to trade when they register their room number. This is also to hide the trade. Some practitioners who aren't strong enough don't want to trade in public because they're afraid of being targeted. Then let's go take a look, Lin Yi said. Okay, but he might not register it. Han Xiaopa said as he left the room with Lin Yi. Well, let's wait and see. Lin Yi was just trying. If it didn't work out, he would think about it tomorrow. The two went downstairs together. When they arrived at the reception desk on the first floor, Han Xiaopa asked, Hello, I would like to ask if there are any customers registered to trade for the blood of an Earth Attribute Heaven-ranked spirit beast? Sir, please wait a moment. Let me check for you, the waiter said. All right, Han Xiaopa nodded. The waiter skillfully searched for the information of the transaction item that Han Xiaopa had mentioned, and then said, Yes, there is indeed this information on the registration level. Can we trade with him? Han Xiaopa asked. Wait a moment. Let me ask. With that said, the waiter dialed an internal number. After getting a positive response from the other side, he said to Han Xiaopa, Yes, but please show me your room card information first. I have to make a registration. Han Xiaopa and Lin Yi took out their room cards and handed them to the attendant. The purpose of this was to ensure the safety of the transaction process. If there was any dispute, they could still find each other. After the attendant registered, he said to Han Xiaopa, The trader is waiting for you in room 4109. Please take the elevator this way. Thank you. Han Xiaopa and Lin Yi took back their room cards, and then the two of them took the elevator and went upstairs. The two of them stopped in front of room 4109. Lin Yi knocked on the door. The voice of the heaven-rank cultivator that they had met during the day came out. Please come in. Lin Yi and Han Xiaopa pushed the door open and entered. It seemed that the heaven-rank cultivator had already made preparations to welcome the guests. There was a tea set on the coffee table, and hot water was also prepared. Please take a seat. Do you want to trade the blood of an earth attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast? The heaven-rank cultivator pointed to the sofa at the side and went straight to the point. He was a heaven-rank expert, so he was naturally not afraid of Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa. There were only a few heaven-rank experts that came to this trade fair, and he knew all of them. Yes, Linny nodded and sat on the sofa with Han Xiaopa. Please have some tea. The heaven-rank cultivator pointed to the tea set on the coffee table, not intending to pour tea for Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa himself. But it was no wonder. He was a heaven-rank cultivator, so it was normal for him to have a high and mighty attitude. Since the two of you are here, I'm sure you know my rules. I only want to trade for something from a water attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast. The heaven-rank cultivator didn't come out. Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa were the ones that followed Yang Qiqi during the day. He had been focusing on Yang Qiqi during the day, so he didn't have much of an impression of Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa. After all, there were a lot of practitioners that looked at his stuff. He couldn't remember them all. He only had some impression of Yang Qiqi, who wanted to trade. That's right. Lin Yi nodded again, but you're using the blood of an earth attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast to trade for something from a water attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast. It looks like a fair trade, but you're the one asking for a favor. Shouldn't you pay more? Haha, since you're here to trade, then the blood of an earth attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast should be useful to you as well, right? How could you say I'm asking for a favor? The heaven-rank cultivator wasn't stupid. He smiled and said directly, I won't hide it from you. I'm only an Earth Class mid-phase peak, and my friend is only an Earth Class early phase. One of us is a fire element, and the other is a wood element. Lin, he said as he used the first form of Frenzy Fist to prove his words. Han Xiaopa, naturally, used a wood element to prove Lin Yi's words. The heaven-rank cultivator looked at the arts and strength of Lin, Yi, and Han Xiaopa and went silent. Lin Yi was right. The blood of an earth attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast, wasn't that useful to them. To tell you the truth, I'm actually an opportunist. Lin Yi said, I have something from a water attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast, but I don't need it. I'm here to trade with you because I want to get more benefits. What? You really have it? The heaven-rank cultivator suddenly stood up and looked at Lin Yi in surprise. He had been looking for something from a water attribute, heaven-rank spirit beast for many years. Suddenly hearing that Lin Yi had something like that, he was naturally overjoyed. I came here and said all this, so of course I have it. Lin Yi smiled. So that's how it is. The heaven-rank cultivator slowly nodded. Since you've made it very clear that you want more benefits, I won't bargain with you. Can I take a look at your goods first? As long as it's what I need, everything's negotiable. To be continued. Chapter 2496. Of course, that's not a problem. Lin Yi reached into his pocket and took out the small bottle containing the ice crystal turtle saliva. He handed it to the heaven-tier cultivator and said, It's here. The heaven-tier cultivator took a deep breath and carefully took the small bottle from Lin Yi's hand. He opened it and was immediately overjoyed. That's right, he could feel the powerful water attribute energy contained in the small bottle. This was what he had been dreaming of. He was so excited that his hands were trembling. I finally found it. With it, I can modify the attributes of divine weapons. Resisting the urge to snatch it, the heaven-tier cultivator carefully capped the bottle and placed it on the tea table. He said, Since you have raised your conditions, I will tell you the truth. My things are all here. You can take any one of them, including the blood of the earth attribute, heaven-rank spiritual beast. With that, the heaven-tier cultivator opened a bag and placed it in front of Lin Yi. The small bottle containing the blood of the earth attribute, heaven-rank spiritual beast, was also inside. It wasn't that the heaven-tier cultivator didn't want to snatch Lin Yi's things. It was because the purpose of the cultivator market was to ensure fairness and justice in transactions. If there was a problem, then the Cultivator Trade Association would definitely pursue the matter. Although he was a Heaven-tier cultivator, there were even more powerful Heaven-tier cultivators in the Cultivator Trade Association. Moreover, the thing he had been looking for so many years had appeared. He didn't want to complicate matters. Anyway, the blood of the earth attribute Heaven-ranked spiritual beast was of little value to him. In fact, even if he wanted to snatch it, Lin Yi wasn't afraid of him. Since Lin Yi dared to come, he naturally had the confidence to escape unscathed. Spiritual beast core? Lin Yi looked at the Heaven-tier cultivator's bag in surprise. A round bead said in surprise, "Oh, you want this thing?" The Heaven-tier cultivator looked at Lin Yi in surprise and said, "This is the core of that earth attribute Heaven-ranked spiritual beast. When I found it, it had just been killed by an enemy spirit beast, so I collected a bottle of its blood and retrieved its inner core." "Then you only took one bottle of blood? What about the other things?" Lin Yi asked with some pity. When it was killed by the spirit beast, its blood had almost dried up. It took me a lot of effort to collect a small bottle. The Heaven Stage cultivator looked at Lin Yi and smiled bitterly. "Otherwise, do you think I wouldn't bring more back? Moreover, there's nothing special on it." "I see." Lin Yi nodded and said, "Then I want this beast core and that bottle of earth attribute Heaven-ranked spiritual beast blood." "All right, deal." The Heaven Stage cultivator readily agreed. This inner core was also useless to him. "All right." Lin Yi picked up the small bottle and the inner core. He stood up with Han Xiaopa and said, "Since the deal is done, we'll be leaving. I won't see you out." The Heaven-ranked cultivator nodded and then impatiently picked up the bottle of turtle spit ice crystals that Lin Yi had given him and impatiently studied it. Lin Yi smiled. He left the room with Han Xiaopa and walked toward their own room. "Boss, you brought this back for that cool girl?" Han Xiaopa was a little surprised at Lin Yi's actions. He didn't know why. "Yeah." Lin Yi nodded. "She wants this. It's for treating someone," and at this point, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Yang Chi-Chi wanted to treat Little Nine. Little Nine? Lin Yi thought of someone. Could it be her? Hacker Princess? He remembered Yang Chi-Chi's identity. She was an assassin from Butterfly Castle. The Hacker Princess was also from Butterfly Castle, and her nickname was Little Nine. She was also sick. Could it be that Yang Chi-Chi was really looking for something to treat her? At this point, Lin Yi felt that this was very likely. Otherwise, it would be too much of a coincidence. If that was the case, then he wouldn't just be helping Yang Chi-Chi, but his old friend. The thought of the Hacker Princess gave Lin Yi a headache. He hadn't contacted her in a long time. Would she be angry if he did? After some thought, Lin Yi gave up on the idea of calling her to get to the bottom of things. Whether it was her or not, Lin Yi only had one more reason to help Yang Chi-Chi. "I see. But boss, you're just too kind. Just because of this, you're giving the blood of an Earth Element Sky class to that cool girl," Han Xiaopa said sincerely. "You brat, you're just taking advantage of me. I help you level up, but can't I give something to someone else?" Lin Yi smiled. "Haha, of course not." Han Xiaopa was a little embarrassed. "Let's go get some rest. There's probably nothing much to do today," Lin Yi said. It was a quiet night, and the next morning, Lin Yi saw Han Xiaopa and Xiaoka dressed neatly in front of his room. There was also a very tired Yang Chi-Chi, her eyes a little red. Evidently, Chi-Chi hadn't slept well last night. Before Lin Yi left the room, Chi-Chi had been glaring at Xiaoka. If looks could kill, Xiaoka would be dead already. Xiaoka, however, didn't even look at Chi-Chi. She sympathized with her, but Xiaoka wasn't a magnanimous person. This girl wanted to steal something from Lin Yi, and what right did she have? And so, Xiaoka didn't even look at her. Chi-Chi's glare was useless. Chi-Chi couldn't find a way to vent her frustration. All she could do was glare at Lin Yi, but Lin Yi didn't seem to care. He nodded to Han Xiaopa. "What time does the auction start?" 9. "Let's go get something to eat now," Han Xiaopa asked. "Okay," Lin Yi said. Chi-Chi didn't know that Lin Yi had let her steal the blue crystal on purpose, and thought that she'd been exposed. Lin Yi didn't say anything, but Chi-Chi knew that the chances were slim. She didn't even know why she followed Lin Yi around. Was it because she wanted to steal the blue crystal again? Or was it because she wanted to kill Lin Yi for humiliating her? Chi-Chi felt like her brain was a mess. She was like a walking corpse as she followed Lin Yi to the restaurant. Lin Yi ordered 4 servings of breakfast, and Chi-Chi sat there, not refusing any. She ate her portion, but didn't say anything. Han Xiaopa didn't say anything either. He knew that Lin Yi had gotten back what Chi-Chi needed, but if Lin Yi didn't say anything, Han Xiaopa wouldn't say anything. He thought that Lin Yi wanted to teach Chi-Chi a lesson. Actually, Lin Yi really didn't want to teach Chi-Chi a lesson, but with Xiaoka here, Lin Yi didn't want to treat Chi-Chi too well. Chapter 2497. The surprise came from Xiaoka was interested in the male thief, and if he cared too much about Yang Chi-Chi, Xiaoka might get hurt. See //, and so, Lin Yi was going to return the item to Yang Chi-Chi when there was no one around. After the 4 of them finished their breakfast, they walked towards the auction venue. There weren't many people entering the auction venue, only about 100 or so people. It seemed like many of the people who had participated in the market square didn't come to the auction. These people were still keen on setting up stalls to trade for goods. The items for auction were all written on the notice board outside the venue. Of course, there were some people who didn't want to attend the auction because there wasn't anything they wanted. At this moment, Lin Yi, Han Xiaopa, and the others were standing in front of the notice board, looking at the items being auctioned. There is no doubt that there would be a large number of elixirs for sale in this auction. Some of them were provided by Lin Yi, and the rest should be provided by the Hidden House of You. The number was about the same as what Lin Yi provided, but there were some additional level 1 and 2 elixirs for other purposes. Lin Yi skimmed through the names of the pills, his eyes finally stopping on pure topaz. There really was pure topaz being sold at this auction. It seemed like Han Xiaopa's information was true. In actuality, the Cultivator Trade Association would always leak some information about what was going to be auctioned, so it wasn't a big deal for Han Xiaopa to know about it beforehand. Lin Yi and the others entered the auction venue and found an empty seat. Han Xiaopa was just about to sit next to Lin when he realized that Xiaoka was already sitting next to Lin Yi, and Yang Chi-Chi was about to sit on the other side. Han Xiaopa smiled bitterly and sat next to Yang Chi-Chi. It was around 8:50, and most of the people had arrived. The vice chairman of Heaven class that Lin Yi had met at the entrance walked up to the stage with the pawnbroker. The Heaven rank vice leader sat on the side, while the pawnbroker stood beside the Heaven rank vice leader. He picked up the microphone and said to the cultivators participating in the auction, "Welcome everyone to the auction organized by the Cultivator Trade Association. I'm Lu Xiansheng, known as Mr. Lu in the pugilistic world. I'm also the auctioneer for this auction." Obviously, the people below the stage were not surprised that Lu Xiansheng was on the stage as the auctioneer. It could be seen that he was the one who presided over the previous auctions. Although it was Lin Yi's first time participating, he had met him when he sent the pills to be auctioned previously. So there was nothing strange about it. "All right, since no one has any objections, let's begin the auction," Lu Xiansheng said. "According to the previous rules, the first item to be auctioned is the elixir from the Hidden You family. This is also the item that occupies a large proportion of the auction every time. However, today's elixirs did not completely come from the Hidden Right family. There's also another seller who put up some pills for auction." Wow! Lu Xiansheng's words caused an uproar. Everyone was shocked. Which sect or family had the ability to provide elixirs to the Cultivator Trade Association? Could it be the Heavenly Elixir sect? However, although the Heavenly Elixir sect also provided elixirs to the Cultivator Trade Association, they only provided some high-grade elixirs. Moreover, the number of elixirs they provided was scarce. They would not auction them in such a low-level market. Instead, they would auction them in other large-scale cultivator auctions. This low-end elixir business had always been monopolized by the Hidden You family. Even if the Heavenly Elixir sect refined these low-end elixirs, they would hand them over to the Hidden Youth family to auction. As for the other sects and families, they had never heard of anyone who could refine a large number of elixirs. Below the stage, a young man raised his eyebrows and looked at Lu Xiansheng unhappily. This person was from the Hidden Right family. He was also the young man who had been arrogant and despotic at the entrance of the cultivator's market to clear the way for the Heaven Stage expert, who was a short robber. However, everyone doesn't have to be surprised. According to my appraisal, the elixirs provided by the other seller are not inferior to the elixirs provided by the Hidden Youth family in terms of quality and purity. They're even more balanced. There is no difference in quality between each elixir. Lu Xianxing threw out another bombshell. What? The cultivators below the stage exclaimed after hearing it. As everyone knew, although the Hidden Youth family was an alchemy family and many earth-level elixirs were provided to them by the Heavenly Elixir sect, not to mention that these elixirs were refined by different alchemy masters. Even the same alchemy master couldn't guarantee the same quality every time he refined the elixir. Maybe if the condition was good, the quality of the elixir would be excellent. If the condition was bad, the quality of the elixir would be worse. Forming the elixir was the most basic requirement. However, after forming the elixir, the purity and quality were still different. However, every auction was a mixed auction. It was impossible to let the auctioneer pick the good and the bad. It could only be determined by luck. But now, Lu Xiansheng said that there was no difference in quality between the elixirs provided by the new seller. What kind of concept was this? How amazing was the alchemy master to be able to do this? Perhaps even the elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect couldn't do it, right? Other than the famous elder of the Xiantian sect, perhaps only the medical Saint Zhang Liju could do it. Now, there was actually someone who could refine elixirs of the same quality? Everyone, don't be in a hurry to be shocked. I still have something to add, and that is every single one of these pills is of the highest quality. You don't have to try your luck or gamble on your luck. You can directly buy them and bring them home. It was undeniable that Lu Xianxing's words were very provocative. It made many people's hearts stir after hearing it. However, the young man from the Hidden Youth family's face was even uglier. In the past, the Hidden Youth family was the backbone of every auction. Seeing their elixirs being bought by cultivators at high prices, the Hidden Youth family was very happy. But this time, there was an accident, and it was when the young man and his granddaughter were in charge. Naturally, he was very unhappy. They are all of the highest quality. Even if the price is higher, it's fine. A cultivator sitting below the stage suddenly said, "Nonsense, the price will definitely be higher. Everyone knows that it is the highest quality, so naturally they will pay more," another cultivator immediately said. It was just that Lin Yi felt that these two people were hired by the Cultivator Trade Association, but it didn't matter. The situation in front of him would only benefit Lin Yi. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to question them. Chapter 2504_School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 2504 End of Bringing Surprises Part 2. Chapter 2498. I don't believe it. From although some people thought that the two people who suddenly spoke might be fake, what they said was not wrong. It was reasonable for the best quality medicinal pills to have a higher price. Look, I don't believe it. It's impossible for someone to send better quality medicinal pills than us. You know, the medicinal pills this time are provided by the Heavenly Elixir sect. Do you mean that someone's medicinal pills are better than the Heavenly Elixir sects? The young man finally couldn't help but stand up and ask. In the past auctions, the representatives of the Hidden Right family would always receive a lot of admiring gazes from other cultivators. However, this time, the same situation did not happen to the young man. He had coaxed and pestered his grandfather for a long time before he could attend this auction. In order to enjoy the admiring gazes of others, he had practiced acting tough for several days. He was prepared to say a few words when everyone was rushing to buy the elixir pills. Now that he had no place to use his skills, he suddenly became angry. Pan Gao, if you don't believe me, you can come and appraise it. Lu Xiansheng glanced at the young man and said faintly, "You're welcome." The young man hesitated a little. His grandfather was the guest elder of the Yu family. Because of his heaven-stage strength, he was allowed to learn alchemy from the Yu family. He was also given the name Pan. Now, he was considered a first-grade alchemist. Although his alchemy level was not satisfactory, he still had the ability to distinguish the quality of medicinal pills. So when Lu Xiansheng made this proposal, he really wanted to go forward and verify the authenticity. He really didn't believe that someone's alchemy level was so high. Moreover, he knew the source of this batch of medicinal pills from the Yu family. It was sent by the Heavenly Elixir sect. So, even if someone's alchemy level surpassed the hidden Yu family, it couldn't be better than the Heavenly Elixir sect, right? If you don't come and appraise it, then our auction will continue. Lu Xiansheng said with a slight smile. He didn't want to offend the hidden Yu family. After all, Lin Yi's medicinal pills of good quality might still be available in the future. So, the business between the Cultivator Trading Association and the hidden Yu family still had to continue. It was all for the sake of getting a good price for these pills. Firstly, it was to express his goodwill to Lin Yi and see if they could work together for a long time. Secondly, it was to earn more commission for himself. All right then, since Mr. Lu has invited me so strongly, I shall act as the appraiser for everyone. Right Pan Gao made his decision in an instant. He stood up and walked slowly to the stage. The movement of the right arm. No one objected. After all, Mr. Lu had only been boasting about himself. After the auction ended, they had no way of finding fault with him. After all, the concept of a pill's quality was too vague. Whatever others said made sense. Of course, the reason why Right Pan Gao dared to go on stage was because his grandfather, the short robber, wasn't here. The short robber was actually here to hold the fort. After safely escorting the pills to this place, he spent the rest of the time cultivating in his room. He left everything to his grandson to handle. If the shorty was here, Right Pan Gao wouldn't go on stage so easily. He had to pretend to be well-behaved. "It's here. Mr. Gao on the right, please appraise it for us." Lu Xiansheng pushed a bunch of small bottles towards Right Pan Gao, indicating that he could take a few out for inspection. Right Pan Gao didn't stand on ceremony. He randomly picked up a small bottle and opened it. Inside was a small qi-gathering pill. Although he couldn't refine it, he was very familiar with it. Right Pan Gao's expression changed immediately. The small qi-gathering pill was round in shape. Its color was even and full. There were two faintly discernible lines on it, proving that it was a second-grade pill. These were all the characteristics of supreme-grade pill. Right Pan Gao naturally recognized it. Of the pills he sent over, only a few could reach this quality. The rest were either uneven in color, oval in shape, or had no lines. Of course, these only affected the final effect of the pill. It didn't mean that there was no effect. In other words, the effect was just slightly weaker. It must be a fluke. Yu Pan Gao thought that he had casually picked up the best one, but the others might not be as good. So, he quickly picked up another small bottle and opened it to check. However, his expression changed again. This was a small qi-gathering pill. Its quality was basically the same as the previous one. They were both supreme grade. Right Pan Gao took a deep breath. He put down the small bottle in his hand and opened another bottle further away. This time, it was a small Huan pill, but it was still supreme grade. Impossible, definitely impossible. Right Pan Gao's movements became faster and faster. He basically opened half of the small bottles in front of him, but all of them were supreme grade. Right Pan Gao panted heavily, unwilling to give up. His eyes were wide open, filled with shock and disbelief. "How is it, Mr. Gao on the right? Can you announce the results of your appraisal?" Lu Xiansheng smiled. Right Pan Gao hesitated. However, he didn't dare to speak carelessly in this situation. He could only bite the bullet and say, "Yes, they're all supreme grade pills, In fact, everyone had already guessed this result from Right Pan Gao's expression. However, when Right Pan Gao said it, everyone believed it. These cultivators didn't care about the Hidden Yu family's reputation. They only wanted to buy better things that were more useful to them. Hence, they were all eager to participate in the auction. Mr. Gao on the right, thank you for your appraisal. You can go back now. Lu Xiansheng gestured for everyone to leave. Then he said to everyone, all right, let's start the auction. Yu Pangao walked back to his seat gloomily, and the auction had officially begun. As expected, the elixirs that Lin Yi sent were auctioned at an average price of 15 million, while the Hidden House Yu's elixirs remained at the previous price of 10 million, no more, no less. However, although the price did not decrease, Right Pangao's expression was ugly with jealousy. Someone had stolen the Hidden Yu family's business. In previous auctions, the Hidden Yu family's pills were very popular. The supply could not meet the demand. However, this time, at the end of the auction, no one bid. Obviously, those who wanted to buy the pills had already bought them. Seeing that the situation was not right, Lu Xiansheng had no choice but to let the remaining pills go unsold. Lin Yi's goal here was to get the pure topaz. The other items didn't have much use to him, so he closed his eyes and rested while the others were auctioning off their items. He'd only be able to focus when the pure topaz was auctioned off. Chapter 2505, School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 2505, I Don't Believe It. Update complete. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.